Good evening. I'd like to call the combined open meeting of Wednesday, June 20th into order, please. It is 6:14. And the first order of business is for each of the Northborough, Southborough, and regional chairs to call your committees to order, please.
I call the regional to session.
I call Northborough.
I'll call Southborough.
That was fast. I'm not sure if we've ever had it.
Now you have to do the union.
So what we really need to do right now is establish the supervisory union number 3. And those members from the Northborough Committee and Southborough Committee have been selected at the K8 meetings. And so from Northborough, we have Susan Lawrence, Joan Frank, and Keith LaBelle. And Southborough, representing Southborough Union number 3, Paul Desmond, Roger Challen, and Katura Martin. At this time, the Superintendency Union number 3 officers will be from Southborough this year, as it alternates between Northborough and Southborough each year. This year, the officers of Superintendency Union 3 were from Northborough, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Correct. And so at this time, I would like a motion for the chair of the Superintendency Union 3. The 6 members of the Superintendency Union, which were just called, will actually participate in the vote. So again, the officer team is from Southborough, and the first order is to elect a chair.
I'd
Do you
like
have any
to,
nominations?
yeah, I'd like to nominate Paul Desmond for the chair of Superintendency Union number 3.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Can we call for a vote, please? All the members are in agreement? Everybody weighs in. And it's unanimous. And Mr. Desmond, I'm delighted to pass this gavel to you. I'll even get up and hand it over.
At this point, we'll entertain motions for vice chairman of Superintendency Union number 3.
I'd like to make a motion for Roger Challen to be vice chair.
Second.
Any other nominations? All in favor? Congratulations, Roger.
It's always good to run unopposed.
I'll second that. And finally, nominations for secretary of Superintendency Union number 3.
I'll nominate Katura Martin, the secretary of Superintendency Union number 3.
Second.
There can't be any other nominations.
Now, don't say that. It was,
I feel so special.
I labored.
Thank you for choosing me.
I labored hard and long over this decision on this nomination, okay?
All in favor? It's unanimous, if that's any consolation.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairperson, generally, the chair of the meetings alternate between the newly elected chair of the Superintendency Union 3 and the chair of the Regional School Committee. Lynn is the chair of the Regional School Committee, and because the agenda was created without another chair in place, the meeting will pass to Lynn.
Happy to do that.
And the gavel moves again.
A traveling gavel.
It's a traveling
A
gavel.
lot of mileage on that gavel.
Okay. So the first item on the agenda is audience sharing. And we have some audience. Does anyone have anything to share at the time? Well, I see none at this time. So the next item is action on our minutes. We have the combined open meeting minutes of March 21st and the combined policy development subcommittee minutes to approve tonight. So can I have a motion for the combined open meeting minutes? Actually, should we have a motion from each and do it all at once? That would be more. So from Northborough?
Can I do Northborough, the region, and the union?
Sure.
Okay. I move to accept the combined open meeting minutes of March 21st, 2018, and the combined policy development subcommittee meeting minutes of April the 2nd, 2018 for Northborough K-8, the region, and the union.
Okay.
I'll second for Northborough.
I'll second for region.
Okay.
Second for union?
Okay, so we've got a motion by Joan, seconded by Susan Lawrence for Northborough, seconded by Kathleen for region. and seconded by Paul for Southborough.
No, Union.
And now we need a union.
No,
Oh,
now you
and
need Southborough.
Union. South-
Second for Southborough then.
Okay. Second for Southborough.
That's an original.
Okay, so Paul seconded for Union. Okay.
So that's an
um,
original for Southborough.
Okay,
Nobody moved for Southborough.
what?
Nobody had moved for Southborough, so I think that's a first motion.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah,
So-
you're right. I meant, I'd like to move that we accept these minutes.
I'll second for Southborough.
Okay, so let me get that straight again. So Joan motioned for the Northborough Region and Union. Roger motioned for Southborough.
Correct.
Kathleen seconded for Region. Sue seconded for Northborough. Paul seconded for Union
And Southborough.
and Southborough. Okay, good. All right, now we can vote. All those in favor of accepting the combined open meeting minutes of March 21st and the combined policy subcommittee meetings? Okay, that is unanimous.
I'd just like to add that this represents all of the votes for the combined meeting minutes this year. So I know last June, we were quite excited that all of the minutes from all of the subcommittees had been approved by year end, and so far, we're one and done for combined, and I think we're gonna be there for each of the committees again this year. So it's exciting for us.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is we have the NSPAC presentation by Jen Drowan, who's the president of the NSPAC this year.
These are our award night, Go the Distance award night that unfortunately we didn't have this year because of weather, but I wanted to make sure that, everybody had a copy so that they could see who was nominated. Now, Greg, you said you had the clicker, but I can.
You can click, just the arrow key.
Okay, so tonight, we just wanted to thank you for having us. We wanted to just do a little recap of the 2017-2018 year. My name's Jen Drowan, and I am the outgoing president of the NSPAC. And recently, we had elections, and for this coming year, Liz Nolan will be president, and she's actually sitting in the back. Veronica Frada would be vice president. Katie Corliss is treasurer, and Alyssa Dagon is secretary. Just to give you a little bit of background, the NSPAC represents, and this is hot off the press from today, 951 families in the 3 districts. 771 of those kids have IEPs, and 180 have 504 plans. And so the NSPAC provides some ongoing educational programs to our members. We do support problem solving, and also we act as a conduit to the student support services for our members. We are a network of individuals that help families navigate the often complicated and confusing world of special education, social services, medical care, and community inclusion. We work really hard to partnership with other CPACs in the area to help expand our members' benefits. And one of our favorite parts of the year is our annual celebration for Go the Distance. And that's the program that you have in front of you that really looks at a lot of our teachers and faculty and members of the community who've really go up and beyond, and we like to recognize them every year. So this represents, what we're going to talk about tonight is really a lot about the survey that we do every year. And this year we sent out a survey, and out of those 950 folks, we received 137 responses, and you can see it was a little bit heavier with Northborough than Southborough, and also 17% with AR Algonquin Regional High School. And then you can see the breakdown of the grades that represented the respondents. So what we found out was for the 137 respondents, 48% had an IEP, 11.7% had a 504, 1.5% of those people that completed the survey were in early intervention. And then this was new for us, 38.7% did not have an IEP plan or a 504, but still participated in the survey, which was really great. The 5 top areas of concern that we found through the survey were academic struggles, ADHD, social skills concerns, bullying, and speech and language issues. Those were the top 5. Part of our survey, we wanted to make sure that not only we saw the areas of concern, but we also wanted to see what the district, folks thought that the district did really well and what they'd like to see more of. And overwhelmingly, we saw Best Buddies, music programs, lots of inclusion opportunities, Project Unified. Those are all really great inclusive opportunities that we have here at not only the high school, but also the middle schools. People really like to see that we had modified homework and clearly very dedicated teachers. What folks would like to see more of is more social skills groups, more peer mentoring, more educational presentations about teen issues and safety, dyslexia programming, and also, which is around the board, communication. We can always improve on that. The top requested workshops and areas of interest shown this year were community resources, advocacy, school safety, and I'll just speak to the school safety piece because recently, actually last week, we had 2 officers, a Southborough officer and actually the resource officer from Algonquin come because we had quite a bit of people, when we have safety threats, quite a bit of people who are concerned about some atypical responses of kids that are in special education and how that is handled. And I can tell you that Coffee and Connect Hour was our best attended Coffee and Connect for the whole year, and it really, the officers did a great job at really reducing a lot of anxiety that people felt about lockdown drills and the potential of having a threat and some of the responses that children in special education may have, and also maybe kids who have nonverbal issues, and they really, really did a great job in alleviating a lot of anxiety from many parents. And that was directly, that really came about very quickly after the events that had happened recently, and the police and resource officer were extremely receptive and came right in and said, absolutely, we will be there for your next coffee hour. And then Mass Health Premium Assistance and Social Service Supports, bullying prevention, and then just as a recap, the 2017-2018 workshops that we did in conjunction with the student support services were anxiety and education, executive functioning, basic rights, and intro to transition planning. So it was actually nice to see that we saw a lot of new areas of interest for next year, so that will all go into our planning. One of the biggest things we saw this year that really made us think a lot about what are we going to do next year for outreach, and that was how many of you have attended an NSPAC meeting this year. And unfortunately, it was 88% no and 12% yes. So that tells us we really need to do a lot more outreach. And some of the reasons why they weren't attending is, the first one, they didn't know about the meetings, so that tells us we really need to get out there and make sure that parents know who we are, what we do, and certainly the availability of meetings. Of course, lack of time and inconvenient time and lack of childcare were also barriers. I know last year we did stagger the meetings. Some were in the mornings, some were in the evenings. And we got kind of a mixed result on that. It wasn't necessarily mornings were better or evenings were better. It just really depended on the topic. Coffee and Connect, we do that every month, and we try to do 1 month in Southborough Library, 1 month in Northborough Library, and every month a district administrator comes and is present for the first 15 minutes to discuss any kind of areas of concern, or they also can present a topic of interest. And the support group following is, it's not a official NSPAC meeting, but it's more of a support group and discussion, networking, all of us getting together and trying to coach maybe parents who have younger kids after, a lot of us in the group now have kids who are going into the high school. So we've kind of gone through the whole span of from preschool up until high school. So hopefully that we can be a support for them. Our wish list, and that's not for 2017-18, that's for 2018-19, sorry about that. But our wish list, and it actually remains the same. We really would love to have liaisons come to our meetings. We did have a liaison come to our meeting. Kelly Gannett came to our meeting this past meeting, and it was great. But we would love to have other school committee members. If you want to become a liaison to the NSPAC, and you can come to meetings, you're more than welcome to Coffee and Connect, and also to any presentations or workshops that we do. We continue to want to have good communication between the school committee and the NSPAC. Beginning of the end of the year presentations like we're doing now, we typically do a recap at this time, and then in the fall we will come back and kind of do a little more delving deep into our survey so that we can really get to know a little bit more about what our members need. And then the last thing is the district has been very gracious in providing us with our annual MassPAC membership. So how to follow us and how to make sure that you know what's going on with what we're doing. I'm just going to preface that I was just told that the NSPAC at yahoogroups.com is wrong. If you want to subscribe, the email address is actually nspac-subscribe@yahoogroups.com. And then you can get a plethora of information as to what's going on, not only in our district, but other districts. You can follow us on Facebook. We do have an NSPAC Facebook page. You can go on nspac.org. If you actually go into the district website, you can find a link to that. And you can always contact officers at nspac1@gmail.com. So those are some of the results and some of the things that we're going to be hopefully looking into more and having our meetings with Kristine and Marie and Deb and Erica about what kind of program we can do to best fit our members in the district. So if anybody has any questions, and I can also send you a link to this PowerPoint presentation so that you can have a little bit more information, and I can send it through Kristine or to one of the chairs, and you can send it out. But thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. Thanks.
Good,
Thank
thank you.
Sure.
So, what is the reason you'd like to see the liaison in this review?
I think
Is it more just more awareness or any specific kind of?
more awareness, see what we do, see some of the concerns that members bring up, see some of the success stories that happen, just to be, you're involved in budget decisions and kind of seeing what kind of areas that, maybe folks are looking into a little bit more. I know dyslexia is a really hot topic right now, and getting certified teachers in that area. So it would be kind of understanding what we do and what kind of presentations that we provide, and also just kind of know what are the concerns that folks in special education have.
So that's more of an awareness, I think,
Yeah.
or ongoing.
Ongoing awareness.
as opposed to-
Yep,
Okay.
yep. So, and certainly, more than welcome to come to any official meeting, a meeting with the student support staff, and then just kind of to hear what's happening. I mean, like, for instance, the safety issue, that was brought up. A lot of people had a lot of questions about how things were going to be handled, and that might be something that, you might not be aware of in the special education realm, and how that is the same as we found and how it differs at times. Okay?
Thank you.
Yep.
How are your meetings publicized? Are they through the Yahoo groups mostly?
So we do it through the Yahoo groups. We do it on FacePage. We have open meetings, so we follow the open meeting law. So they are distributed through the town clerks as well. But we certainly, there's never a shortage of ways to find out when we're having meetings. And usually it's posted on pretty much all of those, unless somebody else has something to say.
Also
Through e-backpacks as well. Yep. Yep. And it's on the district website. If you click on to nspac.org, you will be able to see a calendar of what is coming up in the future. Yep.
Do you have your presentation calendar for next year yet?
We do not. It's in the works.
So your dyslexia, have you heard of Eye to Eye? It's an organization out of New York.
Okay.
And the person that runs it actually had dyslexia.
Okay.
I went to a book reading of his at a friend's house, so I'd love to give you his information.
Sure.
Because I think it would be a great person to have.
That would be great.
They have chapters at Framingham State, I think,
Okay.
and some other schools, just to help you guys out with something.
That would be fabulous. We would love any kind of information as to, speakers or presentations. That'd be great. Thank you. Hi, Joan.
I just have a comment, is that, thank you for the great presentation
Sure.
that you gave before us tonight. But going to one of the first slides when you talked about what was the most favorable comments that were coming, and three that stood out to me were the dedicated teachers, inclusion, opportunities, and modified homework.
Yep.
And the modified homework and inclusion go to what the teachers do in the classroom, along with the help of the special ed and special ed department. And I would like to say that that is what really makes a successful program and implements the IEP. So I was very pleased to see that that was up there, and also the other ones, such as the Best Buddies in music, having the children and the students learn, the talents and the skills with time management and everything with music. So it was nice to see that, and it was also, I know how you want to get more people involved, so it's a gem that has to be somehow disseminated to more people. 'Cause
Yep.
it's even just as what Kathy was talking about, I mean, some of those techniques that you have for special learners is something that regular learners can also use. So
Absolutely.
thank
Absolutely.
you very much, and also being time management sensitive with your coffee and connect by having the safety issue, because I think that's It was very well.
Yeah, and they were, you know, there was a lot on social media, and there was a lot of anxiety about it, and we said, why don't we just ask them? And they were, absolutely, you know, they were so receptive in coming, and it was like I said, it was our best attended meeting all year, but it was really, it really showed the dedication of what they do on a daily basis, and it just put so many people at ease. Just not knowing certain intricacies of what goes on. You know, we don't know everything that goes on, and we shouldn't know everything goes on, but they were really good about letting us know that there are differentiated ways that they keep kids safe that may have different responses to just seeing a police officer. So it was really good.
Thank you.
Yep.
So lovely. So I noticed that it was, I think, about a third of respondents said it was difficult to get to meetings.
Yes.
Have you or are you disseminating information after the meeting, sort of as a recap, or are you able to like record certain portions of meetings?
We have meeting minutes that are posted on the website after meetings. We have not done any kind of recording yet, you know, or webinar or Zoom or anything like that. I don't know how that would actually work. I think that, you know, in this day and age where we're trying to get more people, trying to look at all those different avenues, but it's something that we definitely, you know, it was surprising that the number of people who didn't attend a meeting, and that's really, you know, what we see is after meetings is, you know, thank you so much. This, you know, I didn't know this information. I learned so much from other parents, and it's just really important to feel supported by other parents. Yep.
I just wanted to mention too that there were other presentations that NSPAC has had also that kind of appeal to anyone. One of them that was very well attended this year was an executive function presentation, and anyone that attended that meeting that wrote down their email gets email reminders from the person that was presenting each week. And I know, you know, anyone could use more organization in their lives. I know definitely I benefited from that meeting. So, and then last year we had a meeting on mental health, and I think that was a very well attended meeting as well. So some of the things that are presented are really appeal to anyone, not just special education. So, an important point.
So that's all something that we need to look at based on when we saw that number and the amount of people who hadn't been to a meeting. So it's something that we're definitely working on with outreach this year, and hopefully getting to more back to school nights, and especially in the younger grades as well, the preschool, K1. So
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Any other questions?
Is this available?
Yes, so I'm going to send it to the chairs, and then they can disseminate it to you. Okay, welcome.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. It was a great presentation. Always look forward to seeing what's going on. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the Coordinated Program Review Update. Marie Allen will give us that update.
I was here last year to give you an update on the coordinated program review. Last year we were 1 year into it. This year we have completed the coordinated program review. And for those of you who are new here, the coordinated program review is audited by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education every 6 years. And it's a multi-program review of compliance. And the compliance areas are special ed, civil rights, and English learners. This year, in May, they completed a week-long interview of all of our staff, as well as going through all of our buildings. And the highlights from that are the following. They had an exit meeting at the very end. We don't have a draft report yet, we don't have the final report yet, but they met with our administrators just to let them know what the preliminary results were. And one of those was that the parent survey was favorable, and it included comments about supports they receive for their children from the staff. Another thing was that our schools are student-centered and we go above and beyond. Our continuum of services is commendable, so that's one of the ratings that you can get in a coordinated program review. Commendable would be the highest rating. And our IEPs are some of the best they have read, and they commented that any teacher could read any one of our IEPs and know immediately what to do to service our students. So we will need to wait and see what their final report says, and once that final report's available, I will be talking to you and presenting on the findings.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Marie?
There are two other members in the audience, and I think the committee's familiar with Deb Lemieux. She's our Assistant Director of Student Support. But we were mid-year and out of sync with our combined meetings when Erica Edstrom joined our team. And she is in the audience this evening and has been with us, Erica, 6-7 months at this point. Still smiling, even after a coordinated program review audit. I think that speaks volumes. And we're thrilled to have both Deb and Erica support all of the work, the good work with special education in the district. So.
Thank you for that update.
Thank you.
The next item is personnel update.
Well, at the time the packets were put together and disseminated, there was no personnel update. There is a letter before you this evening from Mr. Matt Wells, our Director of Business and Finance. And as you can see, he has submitted his resignation. He has also recently been appointed business manager in the Norton Public School District, and I believe I sent that communication out. So that is before you. It is not our practice to necessarily vote on accepting the resignation, but I did want to share that in front of you this evening.
Did you want to vote on it?
We don't have it on the
Okay.
school
We
agenda
don't have it
as
on
a
the
vote to
agenda.
accept, so I
Okay.
think that would get us
In trouble,
in a
okay.
little difficulty.
Okay, all right, so the next item is policy development. We have second reading of the religious observance policy.
It's always exciting when we can end the year with a new policy after a lot of good work by each of the 3 policy subcommittees, but also the combined. We are a little out of sync with our voting, and so this evening, even though Northborough has also voted this policy, and I think it's been distributed, just for consistency, I would like to suggest that as a combined committee, we review it. The changes have been made that have been suggested throughout the year, both at combined and also at each of the separate school committee meetings that have been held throughout the year that have reviewed this policy. So this evening, we'd like a second read and hopefully a vote to approve.
So,
I might add that it is the same number in all 3 school committee policy packets. So it'll be I-340 all the way around, which doesn't always happen.
Joan?
Can I make the motion for Northborough and the region? I move that we accept the religious observant policy I-340.
Second for the region.
Second for Northborough.
Okay. And we have Southborough?
I'll make a motion for Southborough that we accept the religious observance policy I-340.
Okay, and a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Couture. So we have a motion for Northborough and Region by Joan, and for Southborough by Roger, and for we have a second for Northborough of Keith LaBelle, seconded that, and Paul seconded for Region, and Couture seconded for Southborough. Okay. Any discussion? Joan?
I'd just like to thank the policy members and administration for working on such a pertinent policy that we have, and the diligence and thinking of the differences of everybody and putting this into a great document.
No, this is a brand new policy as of this year?
Mhm.
That's great, that's wonderful.
Okay. All right, so, all those in favor? Okay, and I think that's unanimous. That's we're up. And then also in the packet is distribution of, the substance use prevention and education policy, which we had approved previously.
Also a brand-new policy, in part because of language that was shared with us in Mass General Law, changes in Mass General Law. And again, policy numbers just made in each of the 3 districts, so there you have it, twice in the same distribution. Thank you to the committee for approving these 2 policies.
Okay, so the next item, we have our school physician contract.
So this is very exciting. It's sad to say goodbye to Dr. Sharon Campion, who has resigned her position as consulting physician after serving our school communities for 19 years. And this is an agenda item at this time each and every year because it is an annual appointment. But in the audience tonight, we actually have the individual that we would like to recommend to fill Dr. Campion's shoes. And he is a very familiar face to those of us who served on the strategic planning initiative many years ago, 7 years ago now. Dr. Medina was very much a part of that strategic planning process. And as superintendent, I can share with you that we have had many wonderful conversations about how we can enhance our services for all students within the community over the years. And he's a Southborough resident. And when there were some significant conversations about events that were taking place in the town, Dr. Medina was in my office, and we were looking for ways to make sure that our students were represented favorably through any kind of funding opportunities that would come our way. We're engaged in a lot of great conversations about things that in part will support much of what NSPAC talked about this evening through a symposium that we have planned. And I just, it's such an honor to work with him, even before he might be appointed officially. And his resume is before you also this evening. Again, a late arrival for packets. And he graciously, willingly, and enthusiastically said that he would join us this evening. So there he is, waving from afar. And I think you have children at Trottier and Regent this year. In high school for the first time. We've had some conversations about that as well. So, the recommendation to appoint is before you this evening. I do have the contract in front of me, which can be signed if upon a favorable vote.
Okay, so, Dr. Medina, would you like to say anything to the committee, or?
Just, I really welcome the opportunity to fulfill, you know, take on this role. I'm looking forward to it. I'm really trying to best in this district and helping most of the general college kids, so I'm really looking forward to the opportunity.
Okay, so, motion, Joan?
Motion for the region, Northborough, and it's also a union vote, correct?
Yep.
Okay. So I motion that we appoint Dr. Medina as the school physician.
Second for the region.
Second for Northborough?
Second for Union?
Okay. and
I'll
so-
move for Southborough.
Okay.
Second for Southborough.
Okay. And, all right, so we've moved for Northborough Region and Union by Joan, seconded by Paul for Region, by Keith for Northborough, by Susan for Union, very good, and by Roger for Southborough. This is a mental.
I still remember all the names, I had trouble with names.
Okay, so we have all the motions on the
We'll
table.
be checking the minutes very carefully.
And any discussion, or Joan?
I just just like to thank Dr. Medina. I heard from the superintendent your involvement already in schools in volunteer positions, and especially years ago in doing the strategic plan. And I heard also about all your other involvement that is so wonderful, and you're well known in the community. So thank you very much for everything that you've done for our students.
I'll second all of that. I've gotten to know Dr. Medina over the years because we seem to serve on a lot of the same committees. And I think we're lucky that he was willing and available to take this on, so thank you.
Yeah, just to jump in, same thing. It's largely, you know, I know the pay on the contract is largely symbolic, and it's mostly volunteer. You know, it's a labor of love, so we appreciate your service. Thank you.
Okay. So, have a vote. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Okay.
Welcome
Very good.
aboard.
Welcome aboard. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the superintendent's evaluation. So I will turn that over to Kathleen and Joan.
So I think that we have evaluated the superintendent. Thank you very much. I think officially we had 16 out of 20, now there's two firsts, so that includes the two firsts, respond, but unofficially there were 17, but one of them got lost in a technical heaven. But we know that that evaluation was very positive, so we're not concerned that anything got lost. So I think that what we generally do is you all submitted your evaluations. Joan and I get together and we kind of formulate common themes and create a summative document. So I guess I will read that into record, and then we will adjourn to executive session to discuss salary and personnel and whatever. All right, so yes, please, thank you. So the 2017-18 end of cycle summative evaluation report for Superintendent Kristine Johnson. The official evaluators are Superintendency Union Number 3 and the Northborough-Southborough Regional School Committee. That is the official one. However, it has been our practice, and we continue our practice of making sure that we include every member of both Northborough and Southborough school committees, because every voice matters, everybody counts. But the official evaluating body is Superintendency Union Number 3 and the Northborough-Southborough Regional School Committee. Overall, it was noted that it has been another successful year and that Superintendent Johnson is much better than simply proficient at her job. Her ratings increased over last year in every one of the standards. It was consistently remarked that Superintendent Johnson performs at a very high level in a very challenging environment. The job of being a superintendent in a system that encompasses 3 districts is incredibly complex and much more difficult to manage than the traditional one-district environment. With 3 school boards, 9 collective bargaining units, 2 town government organizations, it requires continuous above and beyond management skill, effort, and dedication to be successful. It was widely noted that Superintendent Johnson has done an admirable job of demonstrating those characteristics. She is well prepared at meetings, listens and responds to all stakeholders in a professional, courteous, and timely manner with well-thought-out responses, suggestions, and solutions. She always displays a consistent positive attitude no matter the task at hand. She keeps an open mind in coming to solutions and maximizes the strengths of her staff. Her commitment to this district is unwavering, her professionalism has never faltered, and her leadership capabilities, all tested by some of the most challenging situations the district has seen, have been unparalleled. This district has been incredibly lucky to have Superintendent Johnson at the helm to serve as a role model for future administrators. It should be noted that all school committee members rated her proficient or exemplary in every standard, and that every experienced school committee member rated her met or exceeded in every goal. For each of the 4 required standards, Superintendent Johnson has received either an overall proficient or an exemplary score from all members of the Superintendent's Union Number 3 and the Northborough-Southborough Regional School Committee, who submitted evaluations for an overall 3.5 out of 4 rating. So go into the individual goals. Professional Practice Goal 1, continue to serve as a Board of Directors member of the Massachusetts Association of Regional Schools, MARS, and as a board member of the Assabet Valley Collaborative, ABC, and to serve as the superintendent on the Finance Subcommittee. Participation at this level in both organizations will ensure my currency in the areas of policy, finance, and legislative and legal issues. The majority of the committee members considered this goal to be met with a score of 3.38 out of 4. Superintendent Johnson's participation on the ABC and Mars boards have proven very beneficial to our district. The relationships she has fostered with these two groups benefits them greatly, but benefits us more. Superintendent Johnson's work with Mars has only made her even more well-versed in legislative issues concerning the districts, such as regional transportation reimbursements, start time issues, and budgeting and funding activities. These relationships have had positive outcomes for the districts by improving our practices and standards and taking them to a higher level. District Improvement Goal 1, engage the administrative leadership team and stakeholders in the articulation of the attainment of our goals and key indicators identified as focus areas in strategically planning for the future, Vision 2020, and to begin the process of developing the next generation of strategically planning the next generation Vision 2020 to XXXX documents. The majority of the school committee members considered this goal to be exceeded with a score of 3.69 out of 4. The general consensus was that Superintendent Johnson is laser focused on the strategic plan and rarely makes a decision without ensuring that it is in conjunction with one of the 10 areas of focus. We feel we are moving in a positive direction for both strategic plan and technology. Superintendent Johnson has clearly communicated to all administrators that each school improvement plan and the technology plan should be aligned with the overall strategic goals of the district. Many members noted that the school improvement plans have become more focused over the past year. There are fewer goals and they are more clearly aligned with the district's strategic plan. They are easier to digest and will likely be more effective. Considerable work towards technology issues is noted and appreciated. Creating the Director of Instructional Teaching and Digital Learning at a district-level role will create a more coordinated and equitable use of technology throughout the district. District Improvement Goal 2, provide leadership and oversight in the area of business operations as the district transitions to a new Director of Finance and Operations. The majority of the committee members considered this goal to be exceeded with a score of 3.56 out of 4. Superintendent Johnson had a very ambitious year with regard to finance and operations. The hiring of a new business director necessitated taking a more hands-on role in the business office. In addition, the district was implementing the recommendations for restructuring business operations in light of events 2 years ago. It was also the first full year of the regional school district treasurer and the refinancing of the bonds for Algonquin. For the first time in many years, the financial audit was completed prior to the close of the following school year. Superintendent Johnson's knowledge and understanding of the operations and finances of the district are readily apparent in all discussions. She demonstrates nuanced and refined knowledge of our district, typically from memory. Her exemplary leadership in leading the efforts surrounding business operations resulted in a rare event, virtually unanimous support for the school's budgets at both town meetings. Though the events of the last few years have precipitated a near-total overhaul of the business department and all of their practices, and under Superintendent Johnson's leadership and with her oversight, this appears to have been successfully implemented. At some point, the district is going to have to acknowledge that we cannot continue to service 3 districts with the resources for 1. The acquisition and retention of good personnel are going to be a challenge in the competitive environment we are in. District Improvement Goal 3, facilitate the identified phasing of the feasibility of solar energy. The majority of the committee members considered Superintendent Johnson to have met this goal with a score of 2.93 out of 4. This was an interesting project as the schools were essentially given a lead role in assessing solar feasibility for the entire town of Southborough. That alone is a vote of confidence in the superintendent. The process has been somewhat slower than we would all prefer, but that is not the fault of Superintendent Johnson. Still, it is encouraging to think that we may not only reap the benefits of solar, but get a new roof on one or more buildings in the process, most likely all without spending town dollars. Student Improvement Goal 1, the NASA leadership team will engage in the practices of instructional rounds to support improvement in teaching and learning within the Northborough-Southborough Public Schools. The data collected through observation, collaborative dialogue within professional learning communities, and other assessments will be analyzed using data measurements, including the DataWise model. The results will be used to enrich our strategic plan, school improvement plans, and instructional practices at all grade levels. This is a 3 to 5 year district-wide initiative similar to the Atlas mapping project process designed to engage professional staff in the observation, evidence gathering, and analysis of data. The majority of the committee members considered this goal to be met with a score of 3.19 out of 4. We have listened to the superintendent speak excitedly about the Atlas program and curriculum mapping for years. This is a passion of hers, and the magnitude of this project has been monumental. Her dedication and that of her entire leadership team is palpable every time we hear a curriculum presentation. Members were impressed with the quality of training and structure to ensure a collaborative rather than a punitive teacher evaluation program. Training the leadership team on effective observation and feedback skills is important in giving meaningful feedback to educators and will translate to the classroom. The instructional rounds program will provide structure, objective criteria, collaboration, and high-quality teaching. Superintendent Johnson has selected a robust program to train our administrators. We are fortunate to have resources such as the Harvard Rounds training at our disposal. Student Improvement Goal 2, support administrative leadership in the launch of the use of DataWise to examine student work and identify areas of growth in the areas of student achievement, curriculum, instruction, and assessment practices, and inform professional development activities. In the identification of effective teaching and learning instructional practice strategies by supporting opportunities for collaboration and development of best practices. The majority of the committee members consider this goal to be met with a score of 3.19 out of 4. Once again, Superintendent Johnson has raised our districts to a higher standard by implementing an innovative approach in the area of professional development. This allows the staff to work collaboratively with other teachers to enhance their educational initiatives with the end result of practices that allow all students to soar in their education. The personalized professional development program is yet another example of the superintendent's willingness to try innovative methods to solve problems. These are welcome steps toward cross-pollinating the student support services with general education and advancing STEM initiatives. Moving on to standards. Standard 1, instructional leadership. Superintendent's performance rating for Standard 1, instructional leadership. This education leader promotes the learning and growth of all students and the success of all staff by cultivating a shared vision that makes powerful teaching and learning the central focus of schooling. Superintendent Johnson was overall rated proficient in Standard 1, instructional leadership with a score of 3.44 out of 4. All members rated her either proficient or exemplary in this area. This standard is one that is constantly evolving and changing due to the direction and initiatives from DESE. Superintendent Johnson has made sure that the districts were never stagnant in accepting of just the basics initiatives. The superintendent has taken our districts beyond the status quo and has raised expectations and standards so that students and staff can see the benefits of promoting excellence. We applaud the environment of continuous improvement encouraged by the superintendent and her various department heads and school chiefs. Standard 2, management and operations. Superintendent's performance rating for Standard 2, Management and Operations, promotes the learning and growth of all students and the success of all staff by ensuring a safe, efficient, and effective learning environment using resources to implement appropriate curriculum, staffing, and scheduling. Superintendent Johnson was overall rated proficient/exemplary in Standard 2, Management and Operations with a score of 3.63 out of 4. All members rated her either proficient or exemplary in this area. Superintendent Johnson was praised for her strength in this area. She has done an outstanding job reorganizing the central office during her tenure as superintendent. The creation of a human resource function has been critical in ensuring that we are complying with the multitude of regulations. She has also created efficiencies by leveraging technology that was underutilized and wasted in the past. She is open to new ideas and is taking advantage of the prior experience of the new treasurer and business director in order to bring fresh solutions to finance and operations. It was noted that the towns of Northborough and Southborough are exceptionally lucky to have a superintendent who has such outstanding credentials in the area of management and operations. As a former teacher, business manager, and principal, Superintendent Johnson brings an incredibly unique perspective to the job of superintendent. As such, she rarely encounters a crisis she has not already lived through, albeit wearing a different hat. In the current environment of dealing with threats to our schools and the unmanageable effect that social media is having on our districts, it takes incredible management, communications, and sensitivity skills to deal with these issues. The superintendent is a strong, capable, and collaborative leader. Her dedication and diligence with respect to overall management and operations of the district is readily observable. Standard 3, family and community engagement. Superintendent's performance rating for Standard 3, Family and Community Engagement, promotes the learning and growth of all students and the success of all staff through effective partnerships with families, community organizations, and other stakeholders that support the mission of the school and district. Superintendent Johnson was overall rated proficient in Standard 3, Family and Community Engagement with a score of 3.38 out of 4. All members rated her either proficient or exemplary in this area. Exemplary family and community engagement in our districts is apparent in the evidence that the superintendent has provided to the committee for this standard. Further confirmation can be found in the high parental involvement and participation in all schools and the enthusiasm that is palpable during parent presentations made to the committee through the school improvement plans and SOS/PTO updates. Superintendent Johnson readily engages with the community on numerous levels, spending a significant amount of her time listening to parents and responding to concerns. She does not shy away from difficult conversations and readily accepts feedback. She can be found at virtually every school and school-related town event, and those where she is not in attendance, it is because she has a conflict with a different school event. Standard 4, professional culture. Superintendent's performance rating for Standard 4, professional culture, promotes success for all students by nurturing and sustaining a school culture of reflective practice, high expectation, and continuous learning for staff. Superintendent Johnson was overall rated proficient in Standard 4, professional culture, with a score of 3.44 out of 4. All members rated her either proficient or exemplary in this area. The superintendent has continually demonstrated her excellence in all initiatives that she embarked on. The superintendent's work ethic, professionalism, and educational leadership is a model for all stakeholders to emulate. With 75% of her leadership team being new in their job over the last 4 years, the sheer amount of time it takes to mentor that many leaders is a full-time job in itself, but she has accomplished that in a highly effective manner alongside running the district like a well-oiled machine. She collaborates equally well with her administrators, teachers, students, parents, community members, taxpayers, town administrators, and state legislators. Superintendent Johnson promotes success for all students by nurturing and sustaining a school culture of reflective practice, high expectations, and continuous learning for the staff. She truly leads by example. Conclusion. The overall average score for standards 1, 2, 3, and 4 was a 3.5 out of 4, with 16 of the 20 school committee members reporting. The consensus was that everyone enjoys working with her, she is passionate about our district, and she is a consummate professional. There seems to be great consensus that we all recognize the challenge of trying to lead 3 diverse districts with sometimes conflicting priorities, but we continue to want her to lead our district for a very long time.
Could I say something before?
Sure.
So before we focus back on the superintendent, I'd like to give a shout out to Joan and Kathleen for leading this evaluation process. To be kind to myself, I think I probably want to say I wasn't one of the first responders, let me put it that way.
But you tried multiple times.
But I suspect that there might have been others like me, and I think that, you know, there were a couple of technical issues that it would have been easy to use as an excuse. Kathleen did not let me get away with that. And I think without their dedication and perseverance, I do not think that, actually, I don't think that we would have had 2 things. First, I think a near unanimous response, all right? And I also think she made me realize that, you know, you could just check the boxes, but that's not the right way to go about it. And even though she grossly underestimated the time she suggested it would take me to do it right, once I got into it and realized I'd been had, but
You mentioned something about my selling used cars.
It really is worth doing it right. So I just like to say that thank you, and I'm sure it's not an easy task for the leadership that you provided in putting all this together.
Well, it is certainly a worthwhile exercise, that is for sure.
I would say thank you for the nice comment, but most of the accolades need to go to Kathleen. She did a great job in composing it and taking everybody's comments and, like you say, being diligent, because I wasn't one of the first ones either. But I'd also like to thank that, you know, whoever serves in this position next with Paul and Lynn, that, you know, it's the backup support that you have through the superintendent, Cheryl Lepre, and the office in getting it together, because I think the format this year just seemed to work out so well compared to the one when it was, you know, landscape. And this one just seemed to work so much better. And if you ever get in the position and you do one of these, it's nice the way that it comes in Excel, and it does some of the work for you as far as the ratings and that, where before it used to be pen and paper and, you know, trying to figure everything out. So, and when you do one of these, I think you have a better regard for principals, the superintendent, any administrator who has to do this for multiple faculty members. And it's a tedious, but it's a well worth reward at the end when you get it done. So I look forward to the one continuing next year, and hope that everybody gets the opportunity to do this in your tenure, as Kathleen and I did on this one. So hats off to everybody, good job. And to the superintendent, of course, congratulations.
Might I comment? First, I'm very humbled by the evaluation. It's very difficult to sit and listen to that, it really is. And then to say that my dad always used to say to me, did you do your job? Did you just do your job? That's what you're supposed to do. But what he left out was an ability to do your job and do that job well is so much dependent on the team that you have to work with. I can't say enough about the collaboration that we enjoy at central office with the challenging environment that we have with 3 different colored folders that we work with. It would not be possible if I didn't have the opportunity to work with Greg and to work with Marie Allen and Deb and Erica and Rebecca, who is the Human Resource Department, which was mentioned. We did not have that before. And our ability to engage, excite, find joy in what sometimes can be very tedious and very complex work, and always keeping first and foremost in mind what is most important about our work, and that's our students. And so I thank each and every one, because each and every one is well represented in this evaluation. The superintendent cannot do it alone. I also, again, want to say how appreciative I am. This is actually my 20th year in this district, with an 11-year absence wedged in the middle that provided a wealth of experience. And through the years, I think I've had just about every job in school system, with 24 of those, 25 of those years being some form of an administrator. And all the experience that you can gain is really best actualized when you have an incredibly supportive community. That includes the school committee, the parents, the students, the administration that we have in our school districts is just extraordinary. They are the managers of the work from day to day. They are closest to the heart of what we do, and that's our students. We have an amazing team. And, you know, I'm just blessed to be here as superintendent. If it's 1, 2, 3, 6 districts, I would probably say the same thing, just because of the quality of work that we're able to do and the dedication to the work that we all have. We are an innovative, sort of an entrepreneurial district at heart, and we're forever looking for ways to enhance and improve our practice, and that is really exciting. So I thank you for this evaluation. I thank all of the folks that I get the joy of working with each and every day, because they are well represented in this.
Paul?
I think it's worth pointing out that, you know, you heard a lot about proficient versus exemplary, and I know when I was instructed on how to fill this out, was it 4 or 5 years ago, they basically told you, don't use exemplary. It was reserved for the top 5% or something. And I know as I was going through this and thinking about Superintendent Johnson, I was thinking, if she's not exemplary in this, that, and almost all these things, then I don't know who is. So I used it quite a bit. And I just think that's worth noting, that, you know, proficient doesn't necessarily mean just proficient. So.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Thank you.
Joan?
Can I make a motion?
Yep.
I move for the region, for Northborough, and for the union, that we move into executive session with intent to return to open session to conduct contract negotiations with non-union personnel with the intent to reconvene in
Second for
open
the
session.
region.
Okay. Moved by Joan for Northborough Region and Union, seconded by Paul for the region.
I'll second for Northborough and Union.
Susan, second for Northborough and Union. And Southborough.
I'll move for Southborough.
Moved by Roger for Southborough, second?
Second?
Second by Katora. Okay. All right, we need a roll call vote for this. But that means, by that, we have a lot of new members. A roll call vote is everyone goes around the room and say yes, 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 or no, no. But,
But if you say
yes.
no.
So we'll start over with Lauren.
All right, so I just need clarification on what we're voting for.
Okay, so we're moving into executive session.
Okay.
And so to move into executive session, instead of the normal vote where everyone raises their hand, you just say, yes. And
So to keep Kristine here, right?
No,
Oh, no, this is just to move, this is just to move to executive session.
Okay, I thought we were moving to keep you.
No,
here.
no, no, no.
There was a transition, yeah, an abrupt transition from the evaluation to the executive
So
session.
yes, I do move to go to executive session.
Yes.
Joke back.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
It was abrupt.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, well, we return from executive session, and, Paul?
I have a motion. I move that we accept the evaluation of Kristine Johnson as superintendent of the Northborough Southborough Schools for the 2017-2018 school year, and in accordance with her contract, I also move that in Section 3, salary and annuity, that she receive a 3.2% salary increase for the school year 2018-2019.
Second for the Northborough Regional and Union.
Well, hold
We're
on,
gonna
he only
move.
moved for region.
So I'm just, so I'm only region, so.
Okay, second for region.
So moved for Northborough.
Second for Northborough.
So move for Southborough.
Second for Southborough.
So move for Union.
Second for Union.
Okay. All right, this is a roll call vote, so.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Kathleen's not here.
Oh. Oh.
She went to the bathroom.
That's great.
TMI.
Well,
Strike that from them.
until we have Kathleen, do you want to do comments?
What?
Until we have Kathleen back, do you want to do?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, wait,
we
wait,
can
here she
com-
comes.
There she
Never
is.
mind,
It's
never mind.
still
No, she can get a way to start.
Miss Hayes?
Sorry. All right. Any comments, or?
I mean, I would certainly make some comments. I mean, you know, this was a terrific year for the superintendent, and we all talked about it a lot. And you know, contractually, we had an obligation, we had an opportunity to provide Kristine even a little more money than we gave her. But as has been her habit over these years, she turns it down and stays in line with you know, the rest of with the contract of the rest of the people in the district. And that, too, is just exemplary. But we were thrilled with her performance. We continue to applaud her work in a very, very complicated, very hard to run and manage district with the, you know, the 3 different school committees, you know, all the different principals and town boards to deal with. It's just wonderful to work with her, and I think we would all agree that, you know, this was in particular an interesting year for Kristine, and she did great.
Thank you.
I would say that all of our districts are very lucky to have Kristine as our leader. You know, with her professionalism, the time that she's afforded to her administrators, her vision that she sees for the districts to move them forward, the changes that she has made has been outstanding. The administration team that she has put together, and even from the sidelines of seeing her talking to community members and the rapport that she has with them, and always having an opening ear, I think has made so many positive things throughout the years under her tenure. So congratulations, Kristine.
Much appreciated.
And I will just say that after many years of observing superintendents, not just in this district, but in other districts, that I do not know how another superintendent, especially in a single district, those wusses,
I won't say I had that thought.
could possibly score higher than you did on the evaluation, because there's just no there's just no area where you are at all deficient. So so cheers to a
Not yet.
to an exemplary year and to an exemplary superintendent.
Thank you very much. It's an honor and a privilege to be in this district. and thank you for all your support.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Onward and upward to the 19.
And I echo everything that's been said, and it's always a privilege to serve with someone who's so dedicated and just so positive too, you know? It's really, it's really uplifting, so,
Thanks.
thank you.
Not always told I'm uplifting, so. It's nice to hear that too, occasionally.
And if I could just add one specific, because we're talking about money, and then we talk a lot of glowing abstract things, but, you know, in a very specific way, the work that you and your team did to refinance the bond for this building, saved us so much money, saved our taxpayers so much money for so many years to come, and it just kind of went under the radar a little bit. You know, it kind of came around budget time, it came around town meeting, and it just kind of happened. But $850,000 doesn't just happen, and it shouldn't just happen without a little more acknowledgement. You know, at the time we talk about your pay raise, maybe that's not a bad time to
Can you repeat
mention
that
it
figure,
again.
Paul?
Hmm?
Can you repeat that figure?
I think it's $850,000 over the
Kristine's in the
over the life
audience.
of the bond. That's a lot of money.
Before, I just have to acknowledge Kristine Tague.
Oh, I agree.
And we're gonna be talking about her, but what an incredible partner in the work and leading this work, and her experience in regional districts. Really, I don't know if we could have done this without you, even if the superintendent was like, let's go. I don't know if I would have had the knowledge that you had to make this happen. And it really wouldn't have happened as well as it did without your expertise and excellence. So we're really fortunate to have her as well.
Agreed.
So thank you.
Okay, so, I think if no one else has anything else to share. I think any other business before the committee? There was, I'm looking for motions. Paul?
For the region, I move that we adjourn this combined open meeting of the Northborough, Southborough Regional School Committees.
So moved for Northborough.
Okay,
So move for Southborough.
second for Northborough, moved by Keith, second by Paul for Northborough, moved by Paul, second.
But
Oh,
Region
yeah, we're not-
staying in.
You're
Region
not,
stays.
Region
Right.
staying.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
staying, you're just, Southborough.
I'll second for Southborough.
Southborough?
I'll second for Union.
And who
who moved for Union?
moved for Union?
Someone moved for
I'll
Union.
move for you.
Okay. So moved by, we have it backwards, so moved by Sue, seconded by Joan, okay. Okay,
We vote.
and we'll have, come back at,
2 minutes.
in 2 minutes.
Do they need to
Vote
vote?
on this.
Any-
They need to vote.
Should vote on this.
Need to vote.
Adjourn.
Here we
Oh,
go.
yeah, sorry.
yeah,
To
vote.
adjourn.
All those in favor? Sorry, I just wanted to keep you on your toes.
See who's listening.
Okay, so we have everyone back? We continue on with our regional meeting. And the first item is action on the minutes of our open meeting of May 16th, 2018. Could I have a motion? Paul?
I move that we accept the minutes from our open meeting on May 16th.
Moved by Paul, second by Joan. And any comments or discussion? Any changes? Seeing none? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Okay, the next item is the district treasury report and reappointment under new, educational policy. We have none at this time. The next is new business, the district treasurer report and reappointment. So, Kristine Tague is here, and she'll give us a little report.
Just as a reminder to the committee, this is an annual appointment. Kristine is finishing up her first year, an extraordinary first year, and the recommendation, of course, is that we continue that extraordinary work and an appointment for the second year.
It has been a very extraordinary year. As Paul indicated previously, we have saved the taxpayers of Northborough and Southborough with the $850,000, or it equates to 2 cents per town on the tax rate for the next 10 years. Our timing was perfect. As you all know, rates are starting to increase. So we did it at the right time. It was a lot of hard work, and I appreciate Kristine's involvement in the whole process, as far as working with the rating agencies. I think it was a learning curve for everyone, so it was good. We've made significant progress, too, in the whole manner in which we go about reconciling cash on a monthly basis. In a sense, we've redesigned the cash book, which is a treasurer's function. And generally, cash is reconciled within 15 days after a month end, which is astronomical. We've also set up an additional money market account now that rates is moving up. By law, money market accounts, you can only have 6 transfers in and out. So previously, all the money market accounts, the way it was done, were reduced to just now accounts. So we lost investment income. So I'm trying to get that maximized once again, now that interest rates are coming up. And then we have our usual year-end closing, and getting ready for E&D. And I'm gonna assist in that and do the cash part of it and assist in the balance sheet, which all goes to the DOR. We're anticipating hopefully having our cash recon, because it is year-end and we have certain things we have to get done by August 15th and be ready for E&D certification in September, which is very aggressive, but I think doable. And I also have to commend the administrative staff here. I have enjoyed the last year. I don't know many of you, but the ones I do know, and also the finance team. They're a great team to work with, and we just need to keep our sense of humor. So, any questions?
Any questions?
I mean, I have no question, I have a comment. I mean, you did a terrific job this year. This was a big deal, and you pulled it off nicely. I'm not the brightest bulb when it comes to some of that stuff. You made it simple for us to understand. You made it simple for me to understand. I mean, everybody else got it, I guess, already, but it worked for me, and I know how much money there was on the table there. That was a big deal. Well done.
Thank you.
I know I appreciated the year that you've had under bringing to us a lot of your outside experience with, new eyes, fresh eyes, and really giving us ideas on lots of things, including the OPEB, and giving us some guidance in what other districts are doing, which it's always nice to bring someone in such as yourself with so much diverse experience, and you're very willing to really share and help us out with that. So I thank you for.
Thank you.
So we have the reappointment, so we need a motion and a vote to reappoint Kristine as our district treasurer for the regional school district. Paul?
So I would move that we reappoint Kristine Teague to be our district treasurer for another year.
Second? Second by Paul. Moved by Paul Butka, second by Paul Desmond. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And congratulations.
Thank you, and I look forward to another productive year and keeping our sense of humor.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we have a guest presentation for us in the audience, and given the hour, I'd like if you wouldn't mind if I move up the Booster Club presentation up from 4 to the second item under new business. That's okay? Okay, so we have Tom Lazzaro from the Boosters Club, who's going to, Booster Organization, who will give us a presentation.
Hello, everyone. So I guess a quick summary for those who don't know what the Booster Club is. So basically, the Booster Club supports the athletic teams. We work closely with the athletic director, and all the team booster reps. There's 28 team booster reps. We support many things. We support banquets. We support raising funds for whatever the sports teams need. Our organization is 501c3, which means we can, during banquets and things like that, we can save on taxes, et cetera, et cetera. We have to have annual audits. We have annual filings. The organization, I joined about 2 years ago. It was a little bigger than I even realized. We move about $500,000 between a lot of our deposits and our disbursements. We hold over $200,000 on hand. And basically, we're made up of volunteers. So a lot of the parents and things like that just want to give more, give their kids a better experience, and so on at the high school. So a lot of effort goes on between a lot of people. So over the years, there's been a lot of donations. A couple of donations for this that I just want to mention. For the last 3 years, the General Boosters had a capital donations of $40,000. And in addition to that, just for this year alone, in the first 10 months, the team boosters have raised $98,699.36. And a lot of that is, it doesn't even count your banquets and your things like that. So we actually get around $250,000 that we put into the program in many aspects. But the $98,699 goes directly to helping the teams, helping to buy some equipment if they need it and things like that. So a total of $138,699.36.
Can I just address the committee? This is exciting. I think that we have arrived at this point in the conversation because for the last several years or more, we've been really trying to make sure that we accepted in the contributions that the boosters so generously provide in support of our athletic program over the years. And so this year, we really moved forward with a presentation by the boosters in the fall, with the decision at that point to have a representative, and it's just so great to have Tom here, very passionate about athletics from the K-8 level all the way up through the high school now, and I think with your own children going through the high school as well. And to be able to come to this point where we are officially accepting a donation, as is our requirement, I think is tremendous growth in this area. And I had conversations with Tom, allowing us to be able to sort of be very mindful of how it impacts our athletic inventory, which also drives our repair costs for equipment and so forth, which we really didn't have sort of that presented in a way that we knew we had to be mindful of tracking that. So this is sort of a big step in the right direction.
It's great too, to have you come here and really get to see you publicly see everything that you contribute, the booster organization contributes to the athletic organization, which in the past, where we didn't have this formal process, not everyone was kind of like the unseen hand that, people weren't necessarily aware of, and do tremendous work to help provide a great experience for the student athletes.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Well, yeah, if I could, I mean, just, because we hear about it, and I'm not trying to be offensive in any way here, but I mean, we sometimes hear about it from parents as we hit them with student athletic fees and other fees that, they're also tapped by boosters for contributions, and so just to, am I reading this right? You took in $500,000 and you paid out $250,000 of it, or, and the rest just sits in an account somewhere? Does it keep growing, or did you take in $500,000 in 1 year?
So the movement is, say, collections of $250,000, disbursements of $250,000
Oh, all right,
throughout
okay.
the year. With 700 athletes, 28 teams, it adds up very quickly. It's not just getting funds from parents. There's a lot of parents that don't have the funds to contribute. So there's a lot of fundraisers that are done. There's car washes, there's food nights, there's all different types of things. And so I guess a lot of it is the team booster rep to be more creative, so that we're not tapping into the same people all the time. Because, I mean, my kids play sports, you know, you see it. You have the fees, you have this, you have that, and it can add up very quickly. So, you know, one of the things I'm taking over as president next year, and we have an experienced group that's on the executive committee, and the executive committee basically tries to have more consistency between all the teams. And one of the things that we're going to do is change it a little bit so that we have more support for those teams. So that when we get new booster reps that come in, they don't really know what to do. Instead of the easy thing, parents give me a check, they can give them ideas as to here's other ways to raise money. So when I was president of Northborough Youth Basketball, we did the same thing. I walked in, there was 8 people on the board. There were all these ideas, we couldn't get them done. I left, there was 16 people on the board. We did a tremendous amount of work. People don't have a lot of time to volunteer, but the more people that volunteer, you can do much more quality work with what you're responsible for. And that's kind of what the next step for us is going to be.
Those sound like terrific ideas. And I think that, I mean, this is terrific too, that to just kind of finally see it. Because we hear about boosters a lot. We've never kind of seen the money issues involved. We know that hand is there kind of feeding us and buying good things for us and helping it out. It's nice to kind of get the specific accounting. And I think the idea of really paying attention to all the sports, you know, all the children, treating them all in in the way they like to be treated, and I think that's probably a terrific idea as well. I applaud that direction, I think. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I'd like to thank you for the itemized donations. I know from the Northborough K-8, we always thank the PTOs rather than amount of money that comes in, because it also helps to offset our budget, what we're doing. So the amount of money that you're giving to support the athletics is wonderful also. My only question is, with coming in with a new athletic director and our superintendent, do you have meetings, do you foresee meetings of working together? Because being on the boosters myself at one time, I know you get so many, every organization could use something, some sport could use something. So it's like the prioritizing of these. Do you work together?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I mean, the couple years that I've been on, we met with Fran once every other month. But then Fran also, Jim Forbush was the president this year, and Fran would have meetings with him. So I would do the same thing with Mike, whether we meet, you know, a couple times every other week or what have you. I think we meet as needed, but there is standard meetings, standing times that we will meet. And the same thing with the team reps. We also meet every other month. To get everybody on the same page, and everybody actually has a voice at that meeting to just state what have they been doing for their teams, and not just that, how their teams have been doing. So we went to the district finals, we did this, we did that, and then that way everybody's kind of, well, everybody's communicating. But I think the other thing is that's where we can also share ideas. You know, I'm new, I'm a new rep, I'm trying to raise money. You know, what do I do? And then everybody jumps in with ideas and to help out, which is great. And then there's some big events where you might have some teams that are small and they can't raise a lot of funds. They can actually help with the bigger events with some of the teams, whether they have a gymnastics tournament or something here. And then there's an opportunity for them to raise money that way as well. So people would actually come, they'd work the door, and then that money would go to that team boosters. And that way it's an easy fundraiser versus, again, going back to the parents looking for more money.
I mean, I love that idea of the communication. I think even the communication with the superintendent, if it's not even a meeting, if it's just, you know, we have this, this is what we're doing, so that, you know, she sees the big picture of what's happening and that type of thing. So I think communication between boosters and superintendent is also important.
Yep. Yep. And I believe Jim had met you, and I talked to you about because of the financial planning committee and other things. So
We just had a 3-hour meeting. So.
Oh.
That will probably do for a couple months, if we're back by 3 months.
Yeah.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Have a good year.
Okay, so we have the list of
Thank you.
the contributions, and we we would, the recommended vote to accept these contributions, and we can do it for the total amount. So looking for a motion. Paul?
So I move that we vote to accept the various booster donations as detailed on the attachment for a total of $138,699.36.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Moved by Paul Buckler, second by Paul Desmond. Any discussion, questions? Okay, all in favor? And that's unanimous. Okay, keeping with the athletic theme, why don't we just go for it? Fran's athletic update, this last one. Really, it's your last one, right?
Really? Yes.
Is there Roger Challen today?
I don't want to be Roger at all. Yes. Should be my last school committee meeting, although it feels like days moved, and I think I said that 5 years ago. In any case, Kristine had asked me to report on the final winter season, because last time I was here, the winter season, I think, was just getting underway, and spring athletics, so happy to do so. We did have a fantastic finish to the winter season. Most importantly, we had another 5% increase in participation from the previous winter. So featuring 18 teams, 380 participants, it demonstrates that our student athletes are fully engaged in athletics and enjoying the experience. And it also demonstrates the significance of the positive aspects of our multi-sport participant. There's a lot of concern in athletics today about kids specializing in just one sport. And although we do have some kids that do that, I'm still very proud of the fact that many, many, many of our student athletes are multi-sport athletes. And I really think that is the direction to go. I think it's the most beneficial experience for kids. And there seems to be a lot of concern with, well, if you want to get a college scholarship, you have to specialize, and really the opposite is true. If you look at the big-time Division I college athletes, or if you look at our Olympic athletes, you look at some of our Super Bowl champions, they were all multi-sport athletes in high school. So it really is the way to go, and I think our coaches have cooperated in that effort, and it shows up with the number of kids that we have participating in multiple sports. Every team this winter qualified, which really for us is kind of the norm. With boys basketball advancing to the district semifinals, boys ice hockey to the district finals, and girls ice hockey went all the way to the state semifinals. So it was really a great winter, not only in terms of participation, but also the success of our teams. Once the snow finally melted, we had a great spring as well. Another 5% increase compared to last spring. Again, 21 teams, 515 student athletes. So we have a ton of kids out on the fields, and it's great to see. I think I would be remiss if I didn't point out Mark Carey at this point in time. Mark Carey's one of our custodians. He's one of our outdoor guys. And with the spring we had, how he managed to get our fields up and running and open and ready for play is miraculous. He treats this facility like it's his backyard. He probably treats it better than his backyard. But he did a tremendous job in getting the fields ready for play. So I did want to point that out. Several of our spring teams also qualified for tournament play. Our boys volleyball team, who won their 5th consecutive league championship, both boys and girls lacrosse, both boys and girls tennis, both boys and girls track, girls rugby, and unified track, all participated in postseason play. Unified track was also the recipient of the 2018 MIAA Special Olympics Unified Track and Field Sportsmanship Award. I believe Sarah was there to accept the award. I don't mean to steal your thunder. That's probably
I got a
coming
great
later.
picture, so I can back you up. I'll bring it up.
Special recognition to Alex Lemieux, one of our student athletes who was named as an academic All-American in track and field. And to get an academic All-American is really quite an accomplishment. So Alex, an outstanding young man who also played soccer for us, I told him that we should score on every single corner kick in soccer, because if he's a All-American high jumper, then there should be no problem for him in the tournament. But great kid, tremendous job. We had a Women in Sports Day celebration. Our girls lacrosse coach, Vanessa Laredo, went to that, and she took Grace Gibbons and Juliana Sacco, two of our premier student athletes. It was a great event for those ladies. We also had, for the first time, an MIAA Coach of the Year recipient. Emily Philbin, our girls rugby coach, is the first recipient of girls rugby Coach of the Year that has been given by the MIAA. It was the first year the award was given, and she, for a million different reasons, deserved to be the recipient. If it wasn't for Emily, we wouldn't have girls rugby here. She's also led the effort statewide to promote girls rugby, so she was a very, very worthy recipient. At Senior Awards Night, the District E Athletic Directors Award went to Angie Farrow and Tommy Athel, two of our outstanding student athletes. Our T-Hawk Pride Award, which goes to any athlete that participated in all 12 seasons of play. We actually had 11 student athletes who received that award. Again, another tribute to our multi-sport athlete, with special attention to Erin O'Reilly and Andrew McCalick, because they were not only 12 seasoned sport athletes, they were 12 varsity letter seasoned athletes. So from the time that they ran, Erin played soccer in the fall and Andrew ran cross country in the fall of their freshman year as varsity athletes. They continued and made a varsity team every single season for their 12 seasons here. And our Athletic Council Distinguished Service Award went to Grace Gibbons and Nathan Anderson, two truly outstanding student athletes. That being said, I do want to thank Kristine for giving me the opportunity to return to such a wonderful atmosphere as exists here at Algonquin. Special thanks to the best coaching staff in the state, to John Driscoll, my go-to athletic trainer, who I think probably has never taken a sick day. He's here 24/7 for the kids and does a tremendous job. Susan Burns, who without the athletic department simply would not function. Mike will learn that. And to Sarah, who I wish I had more time to work with. Her dedication, her work ethic, her understanding of what's in the best interest of the young men and women that are fortunate enough to attend Algonquin, her endless amount of energy is really unparalleled. I've never worked with a principal like Sarah, so I truly want to thank her for the experience. I only wish that I had had the opportunity to work with her longer. And it is my sincere pleasure to introduce Mr. Michael Massimino. He'll be taking on the role of Director of Athletics. I'm really honored to say he's an Algonquin alum. He's in our Hall of Fame. He truly understands and appreciates the core values of this district, and I'm certain he'll work diligently to maintain the proud legacy and strong tradition of Algonquin athletics while moving us forward to even bigger and better things. So I am really thrilled to be able to hand the torch. Michelle wanted me to bring a real torch. I couldn't find it. But I really am thrilled to be handing the torch over to Mike to take over as Director of Athletics. Thank you.
Thanks, Fred. On to me. First, I want to say thank you to the Superintendent of Schools, Kristine Johnson, Principal Dr. Sarah Walsh, School Committee, Mr. Fran Witten, and the entire Algonquin community for appointing me and helping me with the transition with being next Director of Athletics at Algonquin Regional High School. Fran, thank you for being a remarkable Director of Athletics over many years of service and dedication to the T-Hawk family. Your inspiration, guidance for our student athletes, the school and the community is a true testament to the kind of person you really are. A true leader, a role model to all that represent Algonquin Regional High School athletics. Thank you, and I wish you nothing but the best in the second retirement. I am extremely excited about this wonderful opportunity. I'm becoming the next Director of Athletics. I can't wait to work with an outstanding group of student athletes, strong administration, faculty, staff, coaches, so I can continue the tradition of athletic excellence by focusing on the growth and development of student athletes in the athletic program. Having graduated from Algonquin Regional High School in 2000, be inducted into the ARHS Athletic Hall of Fame in 2007, teaching the special education department and coaching basketball and baseball here for the past 12 years. Algonquin is my second home, and I cannot imagine anything else or working anywhere else. I know how supportive school committee, administration, boosters, and the communities of both Northborough and Southborough are. I am tremendously grateful that I have this opportunity to represent TEOC Nation through passion, character, leadership, commitment, and sportsmanship to ensure that ARHS athletics sustains success through guidance and direction. Athletics is an extension of the classroom. It is an extensive part of the high school experience. Athletics is not only a place for student athletes to fully develop their potential, but it is a place to build connections with teammates and coaches, to teach our student athletes that embracing lifelong lessons that are taught will help them find success in any endeavor that they choose. I am honored to be associated with Algonquin Regional High School Athletics. I will work hard to promote and strengthen the value of our programs, to help create a positive experience for every student athlete, and to help facilitate the great sense of pride and unity within our teams and our school. Our athletic program will also include dedicated coaches, active support from the student body, and most importantly, a great sense of pride fostered by the entire community. It would be my mission to facilitate all those facets together to create the best athletic program possible. To make this a reality, as we strive for excellence and dedication to TEOC Nation, we will continue to emphasize team, which is together everyone achieves more. So I would like to again say thank you, and I am extremely, extremely excited about this opportunity to get started. I can't wait to get started. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Welcome aboard.
Yes, welcome. So, welcome, I mean, you've been here, so, but in your new role.
Yes.
But we're
Thank you.
happy to have someone kind of go through the ranks and be totally familiar with the school and the athletes and the program.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fran, for stepping in.
My pleasure.
And helping us out and kind of getting a lot of things back in programs that are really very, you know, the TEOC of the month and the student council, the sports council, that's, you know, was very beneficial in the past, and I was glad to have it back again. So, Joe?
Fran, thank you very much for everything that you've done. Your legacy will be here forever, and you have a student athlete that worked with you for 4 years here at Algonquin, and it's an honor to your legacy and what you've done and what you have done for all the student athletes. I think even for the graduates, you will see that they always get together, in whatever sport they are, they always get back together. And I know from being on the boosters that the teams would always ask you to come to their spring banquets or the winter banquets, and you'd say, I can only do one, you know, I can only do one per season, and they always wanted you to come. So that was an indication of how much all the athletes like you. And Mike, knowing you from the youth days of basketball, baseball,
Yeah.
soccer, maybe it was basketball too in Northborough.
Yeah, all three, actually.
All
Yeah.
three, you
Yeah.
see? You were always a wonderful athlete, and I think that the way that you started even back then when you were in first grade at Peasley School
Yep.
is that you never saw the I in team. You know what I mean? And you were always a team player, and you were always respected very well by all your teammates. And I think that you're going to be doing a wonderful job following in the footsteps of Mr. Winton, one of your leaders. Thank you very much. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
I just want to thank Fran. I'm not sure if you know this, but Fran and I shared a wall in the 90s. Was it not the 90s?
Oh, I never.
And I was assistant principal, and he was on the other side of the wall. And when the kids were a little frisky, we'd say, do you want to be the good guy today, or do you want me to be the bad guy? And so we hired Super Burns together, and when the summer came about, and we clearly needed to continue that tradition of excellence in athletics, there was only one person I could think of to call, and that was Fran. And he still is overly passionate, incredibly enthusiastic, and excited about everything that has to do with our student athletes. And I just want to say thank you for picking up the phone that day. And I did say to him while we were in the audience, Fran, if I ever call you again, you're not going to know who's on the other end of the line, and I won't recognize you. It'll be some time from now. But thank you. And to Mike, you know, we interview a lot of folks over the summer to fill different positions, and I don't think I've ever, in the last few years, everyone's excited to join us, but you're over the moon excited. So, you know, if you bring that excitement to the field and you pass that enthusiasm on to our students, those participation numbers are gonna continue to increase. And Fran, thanks for the participation numbers with the budget. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move back up. So we have the school committee, we're going up to number 2, under new business, the 2018-19 school committee subcommittee and liaison assignments. So we have, in your packet, we have a draft of, you know, basically what people had been assigned to last year. And we typically can have up to 4 members on the subcommittees, the standing subcommittees. And so we have openings on pretty much all of them. So you have your choice, Kathleen. And
Chose 4. At least I'm stuck with, yeah.
so you have your choice. We just have, that's kind of a good working number. And then also to remind everyone also that we are all alternates, so that it makes it easier if it's hard to get a quorum of the subcommittee, that we can still have it if some other member of the committee can come. So everyone knows about when the subcommittee meetings are scheduled, and if it's something that interests you and you like to come, we'd love to have you. And then we also have other groups. We have the liaisons that we talked about, the NESPAC, the Health and Wellness liaison is going to be important this year.
Yeah, that committee is gonna spearhead the cafeteria food service analysis. So a lot of the work around our cafeteria discussions that we've had will fall under the Health and Wellness Committee, which is exciting.
Other thing I want to point out too is the naming subcommittee. It's not in session right now. It's off, but we wanted, in our policy, when we were rewriting that naming policy, we wanted to have someone sort of be in place so that when there was nominations and we had made honored selected honorees and we're naming something, that there would be someone who could follow it through and, you know, see the progress of it, report to the committee of, you know, when that ceremony was gonna take place, and just to make sure it doesn't fall through the cracks, because in the past, we've made the honoree, and then it never was implemented. So I think there would probably be like one person that would want to do that. And so if you can just email me of your interests, then I'll put together the full list. And what else, the payroll, over summer?
There is one that is not on here that I would like to request the committee to consider. It's, I think, true that we will be revisiting the start time discussion. The bus company is done, it's completed the routes for the year, believe it or not. We're just having the bus drivers look at them to tweak the stops and to make sure the routes are accurate that come out of TransFinder. And because those conversations will continue at the high school level, I'd like to request that the committee consider a liaison to the start time study group, and would like to, if I could be so bold as to recommend someone, simply because it's been a 5-year conversation, and there's a lot of sort of history and information that's been shared, and that would be Kathleen Gillespie, because she's been involved in it since day one. Paul was next.
I'm sitting back and going.
Kathleen refuses the position, then Paul would be second.
Have an alternate.
Paul would be
Paul
the
Butker, by the way, right?
So if the committee would consider that, that would be quite helpful in transitioning from one conversation to the next, to have that.
So what do we have to consider? Does that mean we have to create it, we have to approve the position, or is that what you want?
You could just add it to the list and appoint Kathleen.
Oh, all right, that's fine. So we don't need a so we don't need a motion or something?
No.
Cool.
So, and I guess in September when we meet again, we'll have hopefully the full list and we'll, approve everyone, all the, so just let me know, and, Kathleen, if you have any questions about what these different committees do, we can talk about them, and give you some orientation there. Paul?
Question about timing. Do we try to time any of these in conjunction with the K through 8 committees that are the same, like capital planning, operational?
Policy we do.
Policy is the one thing
That's
that
what
we
we do.
try to do.
And we will be having a combined policy meeting this summer.
So, yeah, so we have the policy, we have 3 members on policy. So if anyone wants to be an additional member, but otherwise we're fine with 3.
Well, and just keep in mind that if you add your name, then that changes quorum requirements, and
Right.
so if you're interested, that's great, but you really need to be able to make the meetings, otherwise things get
Yeah.
problematic.
Stalled.
Stalled, exactly.
We have some quite exciting policies this summer, so I'm doing a little promo. Long-awaited acceptable use policies. And if we can review it, we can get it to combined in September and maybe have it done by December, which is really exciting. That's just some words of encouragement to participants.
I still want to work to get them all the same number.
And then also, some of the ones that we'll have to have in place right away is such as the payroll and warrants.
Mm-hmm.
And is there another subcommittee we need to have over the summer, or no?
I'm thinking it's probably gonna be policy that we meet and then the warrants to be signed.
Yeah, I know in the past, sometimes we have operational, but I don't think anything will be coming up, and we can always, if we need it.
We may be looking at revising and actually enhancing some of the reports that we send to committee, to start including that grants management piece that we've been talking about, as well as the revolving accounts. And so what I would most likely want to do is review that with Operational Budget Subcommittee before it comes to committee at our first meeting. And so we would have some time because we don't meet until September, but I know how challenging it is to try to get folks together in the summer. But sometime between our first regional meeting in September, and now, we will have those budgets in some sort of semblance of review. Would love the input of the Operational Budget Subcommittee if we need to sort of change the format. So we'll be meeting, so that would probably be one that would be meeting relatively soon as well.
Okay, so, we have that, and if any changes, if anyone doesn't want to be on the committee that they've been in the past, that's good, that's fine too. Okay, so, move on to the next, which is the approval of grants and donations. Vote to approve a donation of $750 from the Northborough Junior Women's Club in memory of Diane Toomey, the Best Friends Program.
So, never want to turn down free money. I move that we accept the donation of $750 from the Northborough Junior Women's Club in memory of Diane Toomey.
Second.
Second. Motion by Paul Putka, second by Paul Desmond. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Okay. The superintendent's report to the committee, and principal's report first.
Sarah, in living color. Here's the document. It's all
All 4
yours.
pages though, right?
Hey, it's not a full floor.
Sure, thank you for that. Good evening, thank you for this opportunity to report out. I just want to take a moment and say thank you for the ongoing support. I really appreciated and enjoyed my year here. And thank you to my administrative team, they're a phenomenal team. I'm very lucky to have the opportunity to work with them, our community members, our educators, faculty members, and of course our students. Right? Jumping right into the work, starting with academics. My little ones and I did quite a bit of parade hopping between Southborough and Northborough on Memorial Day, and we got to experience live time our fine arts program, marching in both parades, singing at numerous stops, and engaging with the community, and the parent support was phenomenal. Wonderful events in both towns. If you made it out to Wegmans, the first night that we attended, the entire middle portion of the auditorium was Wegmans employees, so that was really exciting. And they had their Wegmans clothes on, so that was also exciting. And Wegmans was very supportive. They donated a lot of the props. We had lifetime Wegmans grocery cards, so it was a lot of fun. Both nights I came, the auditorium was packed. Community was there. They were completely supportive. It was a free event. People just gave donations. Very appreciative of the work done by the arts department and the opportunity to be able to host that. For activities and clubs, Fran spoke really well and highly about Bus Buddies. The work continues. Operation Tomahawk, I just want to give a shout out to Assistant Principal Mr. McGowan. He works tirelessly with his class. Alan Bromhill is the president of Operation Tomahawk. He's a junior, and through some of the great leadership done by Andy, Alan has really blossomed this year, and he invited in Wounded Warriors program. They held a school-wide event. They honored our veterans. They did a lot of work in collecting donations and monies to donate out to local supportive organizations. And it's really great to see Alan embrace this leadership role this year, and we look forward to him doing the same next year. Carnival was hot, but very exciting. It was my first carnival this year. I don't know how the grillers made it. They were out there grilling in the smoke for, I think, 3 hours, but they stood there. The faculty were great. The kids had a lot of fun. Something exciting this year is that student council increased the amount of indoor activities. So every child had a home to be at. There was a lot of stuff going on in the gym. You could stay with different teachers who were running different activities, so the kiddos could go back and forth and pick between and engage in the work. And it was the day before junior prom, so the juniors were really excited to have the opportunity to participate in Carnival and not worry about classes. So the whole community came together. Really awesome opportunity and tradition that goes here at Algonquin. Fran kind of stole a lot of the thunder for athletics, but fair enough. It's his second retirement, so I got to give him a little bit of leeway. I did promise a picture. Franny's not here, but I promised it, and here it comes. The Unified Track Team Good Sportsmanship Award. All the kiddos were there. The event was absolutely amazing. Doing it for the camera right there. The work that goes on in Unified Track is phenomenal. Until you're standing there and experiencing the fun and walking on the track with the kids, the energy is infectious in a great way. And to have them earn this award is just true excitement. Both Westboro and Algonquin earned the award because we were co-op, and because of the great work by Coach Hausman, Kevin Hausman, he's also a science teacher here, and athletics department. The program has tremendously grown, and we'll be doing our own team, non-co-op team for next year. So Westboro can have their sustainable program, and we can have our sustainable program. So now we have 2 unified track teams for our local high school. So wonderful, wonderful work. Something Fran did not mention was 2 of our track kiddos went to nationals this last weekend, and they did very, very well. Alex went for high jump, and Caitlin went for the 2-mile on the track. Really hardcore. Give them a lot of credit. And nationals is a really big event, and they had a lot of fun. Fran and Mike said it best. Their transition has been an amazing opportunity provided to us by school committee, Superintendent Johnson, support by Assistant Superintendent Martineau. Mike was really looking forward to sustaining those traditions that really make T-Hawk Nation. And that work is very, very exciting. He's looked at some of our traditions and he's expanding them, and he's going to continue to grow the work, some of the foundation work. I look forward to Fran's 3rd retirement, so I'm wondering when that phone call will go out, but we'll be here waiting for him. He doesn't think it's funny, but I think it's great. Jumping to some of our department news, the history department is so creative, and their work that they can do with technology is phenomenal. They started an open source textbook a few years ago. They've continued the work, and they're in their last phase going to next year, where the textbook becomes completely interactive. And this all of this goes with the history teachers taking their time to sit down and do this work. And the book kind of works to update and be relevant and allow for those application opportunities in multiple ways. And they're linking some of that work with their Canvas work. So you're making that digital learning platform come to life for children while linking to this resource. So, and that was made possible through a lot of professional development provided by Greg and the district. So very exciting work. I always love talking about when the kids get to go out and experience and apply their skills. So they recently had a field trip to Roxbury Community College where they sat with local peers and they debated some difficult topics and discussions and really honed in their life skills. So beyond the Algonquin walls to really be those active citizens. And this year has been about empowering that positive voice. So it was great to see them continue that right until the end of the year. And they were excited to be on a field trip at the end of the year. The fine arts update, the Solar Jazz Festival, huge success. The kids were talking about how when they were there, a lot of the work for the electronics and the equipment was all run by solar panels. So
All the sound.
All the sound.
All the sound was done all day.
So I don't know where Alex Chen is right now about the solar report that he recently gave the last time he reported out, but this worked really, really well with the solar panels.
We tried to invite him to speak and just couldn't make the connection, yeah.
I think he would have enjoyed it. I think he
Yes.
would have been pro solar panels. And for those that couldn't make the art show, I know we had to reschedule it. We had some interesting weather, which we've had all year. I am not a photographer, but I snuck in my version of a picture of it. It does it no justice. So if you missed it, please don't let my horrible photographer skills dissuade you from coming to the next event. Applied arts, super kudos to Miss Riley's class. The students used a lot of their skills at Gillette recently, applying their marketing, live time, and presenting. It really pushes that application development. So taking the skills you get in the classroom and being able to generalize them cross-curricularly in those life applicable global skills development that Algonquin empowers our children with to be successful beyond the Algonquin walls. And I want to take a moment, and it's kind of towards the end of the applied arts section. Mr. Clark, he's our video production teacher, he constantly volunteers to integrate his classwork into other content areas. For example, we did a reading of the Declaration of Independence. Administrators all read a piece. Different educators throughout the building. We had some local leaders come in and read the piece. And his students did all of the video production part of it to make a great snapshot of Algonquin and this powerful fundamental aspect of the United States of America. So he never says no, and he works in every single class with every single teacher. He's in the applied arts, but you would never know it with the cross-curricular work that he does. So I wanted to throw that moment out there. Our community continues to impress with their amazing support. We recently hosted our annual Science Career Day, in which, as everyone is aware, we had an expansion of our school-wide career day. Science held theirs. We had 10 parents come in, stay the day, and present to our students, again, application skills. And our educators, I know Mr. McDonald is really excited to hear this with MCAS being over for the year. Huge success for Algonquin. Thank you for that work, Tim. The biology educators would stay after school multiple days a week just to prepare our kids, reduce the anxiety levels of taking the test, make them feel comfortable and ready to take the test. And so that really just speaks to the testament of the caliber of educators and the caliber of students that want to be invested in their education. Again, exciting work. Snuck in a picture from the Northborough Public Library newsletter, so I want to make sure that I give them the source there. They are recognizing our volunteers, and one of our programs that we have in our student support program is linked up with the Northborough Library Volunteer Program. They're extremely supportive of the work that goes on. For guidance, senior class annual Scholastic Award Night, you briefly heard Fran talk about that. We had over 200 awards. It was a long night, but definitely worth it. Children were recognized for multiple opportunities and accomplishments. 70% of the awards were monetary, and about $130,000 in financial support for our students alone on that night alone. Community members stepping up. Ms. Connery said I need to give that plug out there that our juniors and need to keep working on their tasks provided to them during their planning workshops. That includes parents, because they were there, and our freshmen and sophomores, great work on their MCAS. Schedules will be released towards August on iPass. Also putting that out there, that was a huge successful push. Great support from central office on using an online platform to share schedules, gives that live time update for the students. We're gonna do the same thing again this year. Library. I lost book bingo, but I tried. The kids, they just devoured the work. I got one bingo, and I definitely got the last ranking. But Miss Honey's creative approach to really taking the library and growing the culture and expanding the library into the classrooms this year, she did it at every level. She did it with students, with faculty. We would come together in these book bingo competitions, and it would just create that extra opportunity to engage with children outside the classroom. So definitely wanted to give her the shout out, and she included, as always, the amazing stats and all of the work that our library does. Jumping down to world language, Ms. Squires took some of the grant opportunities and resources acquired by the social studies, the escape room, and then was able to use it in world language for application and acquisition of skills. So it's great to see us not only earn some of these grant resources like an escape room, but then apply it cross-curricularly. So the resources impact more student lives. So that was, and I didn't escape the room. I wasn't successful at that one either. There's a theme going on this year, but it's okay. And then for math, Miss Reynolds' AP Stats class, really great spin on application of skills. So they linked up with the Writing Across the Curriculum professional development push on finding meaningful ways to include writing assignments that impact student lives positively and help grow student skills. So the stats, the math team linked up with this work, their data will be used to drive some of the professional development for the educators. So what a great way to link it all back together. So I included one of the students' reports out that was part of their final presentation, and it works seamlessly into the amazing work that's going on in the English department. They've had multiple successes and awards, the Harbinger this year, the Writing Center has been extremely successful. I wanted to give a shout out to two of our students, Catherine and Samantha, for their editorials in the New York Times. They had a competition for it. There's a link. I can send you the link if you'd like to read it.
Yes,
Great
please.
editorials. And that would be the end of my almost 4-page principal report. But I appreciate the time and the opportunity to share this. It's exciting here at Algonquin every single day, and for those of you that come during the day, you can feel the energy and what's going on in and out of the classroom, and it really speaks to the caliber of educators, faculty members, and students that we have at Algonquin. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
One other thing. First of all, thank you for another comprehensive report. I really love hearing all the stuff that's going on here. It's remarkable. And I just wanted to bring out, sorry, Andrew Michalik was mentioned here again. The gentleman that Fran mentioned was a 12 varsity letter athlete. I happen to know he also earned an Eagle Scout Award in that same time. So, what a busy kid.
Wow.
He doesn't sleep.
No.
It's hard to imagine that there's something that incredibly comprehensive showcase report of all of what goes on. But in June, of course, we had graduation. And so this is part of my 20th Algonquin graduation. And I would have to say the work that the team had done in advance of really analyzing how we could improve sound, seating, really celebrate the students in a different way by providing more time for parents to see their students in cap and gown was just phenomenal. It was probably one of the best graduations I've attended in 20 years. The speeches were great, the music was phenomenal. There was a lot of background work that needed to take place to really change the way we presented graduation, and they just did a fantastic job. It was a wonderful day, and Mr. Desmond attended as well, representing, and Mrs. Key actually handed out diplomas with me because Mrs. Polachko was not feeling well that day. So it was sort of like a team committee event to make that all happen.
So I have to say, parent feedback was fantastic, that how the kids came in, because they could see their kids. The only one thing, they wish they went out the middle, so the parents that sat in the middle could see, but for the most part, they loved it. And Kathleen, thank you, because I knew so many kids this year, but I wish I could have hugged like every one of them. Like, I really held back. I was like, oh, I want to just give you. It was great. It was fantastic. So that's nice. You guys did a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's always something I always love going to, but I was unfortunately not able to go, but next year I'll be there.
Can I ask, so you said the schedules were coming out in August.
Yes.
As far as, are we using iPass again next year?
Yes.
Okay. Can I ask just as a parent, when you go on iPass, the grades don't stay up that long. So if you don't get them, like I can't get anything on my iPass. So I went to go look up Ella's schedule for something and it's not there. I went to go look up Hayden's grades and they're not there. So is there a way to have them on there for a longer amount of time?
Yes.
Than they're on there?
So I can work with IT. What happens when we're uploading another set of grades
Yeah.
is we have to take them down to import the next set of grades. And Greg could speak much more highly to this, but that's that window that we use in order to make an effective import. And we have to import a couple of times to make sure that Canvas is properly talking to iPass because of students' grades. But it's definitely great feedback that I can follow up on.
And the only other comment that I have to make about this is that I felt like with Edline, I know we got rid of it, but at least like you could go on and kind of look at to see if things were missing of your child's. Because if you don't see it and your kid doesn't tell you, and then you get a phone call from a teacher, and it's kind of too late to change something, it's you're lost because there's not, you don't have it in front of you. And I always tell my kids, I'm like, I won't go on it at first, but if I hear of something, I'm going to. So at least it gave a parent I had a little bit of leeway with it, or I could hold them accountable for something versus if you don't know it, because it's different how they do it on iPass.
Well, coming soon to you is the Canvas portal.
Okay.
So that's the Edline portal, but it's called Canvas, right?
Okay.
And it's very similar to Edline. So Canvas is kind of the lifetime grading,
Okay.
Within reason.
Which is what Edline was.
Yes. That Canvas portal was opened up kind of like a pilot this year, just to make sure that it was linking properly, and then we could expand it. So next year, not only are we going to continue the work that's been on the Canvas learning management side, right, with the students being able to see the lifetime grading, and the iPass work with the schedules and grades for parents to see, we're opening the parent portal.
Okay.
So.
It would just help a little bit as a parent to,
But there will be 2 logins. There's nothing I can do about that.
That part I don't really care about. I just had something to hold above for a little while.
So that is coming this year, and thank you for your patience and to the community, because they supported us in this year in getting Canvas up and running for the students first.
Right.
And then opening the parent portal.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to the, next we have enrollments and packets.
The current enrollments are in your packet, but I do want to make note of the footnote that we had talked about projecting at this point in time what would be the equivalent of 100% of our students in grade 8, and making an assumption that they're transferring and transitioning to the high school. We know that there is some attrition because students do, enroll in other schools over the summer. One of the reasons why this is important, and it became very relevant throughout the budget conversation when the state was not setting the minimum local contribution in numbers. So what happens for our 2 towns is they may take a snapshot of enrollment, and they're basing those snapshots on numbers that aren't really accurately depicting what our enrollment projections might be. So in order for them to better budget, presenting this number at this time, as they're starting to plan their budget presentations for October, and allowing them to use the higher number, then provides opportunities for them to budget the maximum possible to fund the schools. And that has everything to do with the minimum local contribution, which we found this year is as complex as Chapter 70 funding. And so I think we spent weeks trying to dissect minimum local contribution and how it comes about. But the bottom line is, if they're budgeting a lower number and it comes in at a higher number, then they've already set a number that they're budgeting their town budget. And so we want those 100% numbers to at least be visible at this point, even though we know that there will be some changes. So that's what that's about.
Do those numbers include children coming in from other schools into the class of 2022?
So right now, these are our best projections for what 8th grade looks like moving in. And so we do know at the 8th grade level about some folks moving into the schools. over the summer. Some people may have already enrolled their children, so the 8th grade, which are now reflected in the 9th grade numbers here, are as accurate as we can have at this point in time. We absolutely know there's going to be changes. Generally, in Northborough, we've been moving somewhere between 95 and 100% enrollment. Not always the same child, but it ends up being 100%. A move-in takes the spot of a move-out. So it's this magical thing that happens. In Southborough, our enrollments fluctuate somewhere between 88 and 92%. So that's, what we're probably looking at.
Okay.
And we'll know better. We use October 1 as the set-in-stone marker for calculating all of our budgets and assessments and things. So it always changes until October 1, and that's what we fix our numbers on. So I wanted to just point that out because they might look a little bit higher. Right now it's a 13 differential between going out and coming in, but we also know that number's gonna fluctuate down probably because of the attrition. Also, in the packet is our expenditure report, and we would need a vote to approve until audited. I will say that we spent a lot of time today on going line by line by line, and I think we may be pretty close right now, 200 at least, maybe more, into E&D. So that's far better than we had thought a couple months ago, but we released a lot of encumbrances today, and very optimistic. So that's good. And I could go on to the statement of revenue, maybe we could vote
Can we do
for
both?
both at the same time.
Yep.
So Fran did mention that our participations are up. Kudos to the high school for being ever vigilant on parking fees and activity fees, and we're above collections 100%. And our athletic receipts are up also. We took into consideration that expectation during the budgeting process. So the athletic budget that we put forward represents that growth in anticipated revenues. So we basically budgeted those funds out for next year with some flexibility in terms of prioritization of purchases. So that's all good. Obviously, we still have, final fourth quarter revenues in things like our assessments, Chapter 70, transportation. There is still a positive rumor that regional transportation will see a slight increase, but I haven't seen anything definitive on that yet. If not this year, they're really talking about an increase next year, which could go as high as 75. But it's early, the budget's not set, but they're still talking about a slight increase in regional transportation, which would be phenomenal. And you will also note, there's something called extraordinary relief. Algonquin qualified for extraordinary relief. It's expenditures that far exceed a base amount in special education. The regional district received 40,000 above our normal circuit breaker receipts. I have to applaud the effort of Sandy Burgess, who works very closely with special ed, and she does all those calculations. And that money has to be expended in the fiscal year it arrives. So we probably have final notification of it in May, and we spend it, because it's something that can't revolve forward. That's like extraordinary relief. So that's what that's about. And you can see, it was expended as fast as it came in. So that's good. And circuit breaker looks like we're in good position for next year, too. So we've had some fluctuations in placements after today's review, so we're healthy.
So I move that we accept both the monthly general fund expenditure report as of May 31, 2018, and the statement of revenue as of May 31, 2018 reports until they are audited.
Second.
Second, motion by Paul Butker, second by Paul Desmond. Any questions? Okay, all those in favor? That's unanimous, okay. Okay, so starting with, back to old business. So we have the student handbook approval that was included.
So there was a link that was sent out.
Sent to you?
Yep, and I think Paul Butker requested, yeah, Paul Desmond now. Paul Butker, that's in line for the START committee, not Paul Desmond, so noted. There was a link sent earlier than the packet, so there would be more time to review this. Michelle Donato and her team did an amazing job of making significant and much-needed updates to this handbook. And I think it's blue, that's the attorneys, and it's red, that's ours. So anything that's blue is actually coming from council, and just a great job of going through this piece by piece. And I would like to turn this over to the administrative team, high school team, to answer any questions that may come up. And Paul, you did submit some.
Yeah, so, and most of them got answered to, to my satisfaction, certainly. But one that I thought would be of interest to the entire committee, there's a fairly, I didn't know this was coming, a change to the GPA numbers that we're giving to different grades. So, and like as an example, an AP letter of A or A plus in the past was a 5.5 GPA, and now it's going to be a 5. And it just, it's kind of a change. And one of my questions was, colleges that take our kids are used to how we calculate GPA, and now a GPA rank, rating for a kid that graduates 3 or 4 years from now will be different than a kid who graduated a year before with the exact same report card. And how are we gonna make sure all those colleges know that, we had a change in how we track that stuff so that they don't misunderstand the performance of any of our graduates?
It's a great question. Do you mind if I field it? So before we jump into answering that, I think it's really important that this was a 2-year process that occurred at Algonquin. Last year, there was some phenomenal work done by our faculty under Principal Mead. They researched 9 of the local schools around us, and they found that there was a significant difference in how we were weighting some of our classes versus some of our local high schools. And because of how we were weighting them, you could, in an AP class, earn a D, and it would have the same weight as if you had to strive for a B- in a college prep class, what we consider a traditional level class. And it was potentially creating a disparity in GPAs. This was presented to faculty and was discussed and approved, but it was set to the side because the focus initially had to be on ranking, right? A lot of the work needed to be done on moving away from ranking and focusing on the GPA. The secondary work was then done to try to get the GPAs to align and decrease the gap that we were unintentionally creating between students who happen to just enjoy an elective and it was an AP versus students who happen to enjoy an elective and it was a CP. So a lot of that work was done. To get to your question, the admissions offices of the colleges, the proactive work is done through guidance. We're not the only school that's made shifts to how we've weighted it. They don't compare from cohort to cohort. It's more within the class. So there are no concerns about saying, well, an Algonquin student 5 years ago came in with this GPA, and now this year they're coming in with a different GPA. So that proactive work is done in advance, so it doesn't impact from year to year to year. And the colleges focus more on the whole child and not necessarily on the number, which is something that Algonquin has picked up on and moving away from ranking and trying to close the disparity going on in the GPA.
So I'm confused. If you're not comparing, say, cohort to cohort, but instead you're only comparing within the year, then why doesn't rank matter? I mean, that seems to me that you just said the emphasis is on rank and how one kid goes against another within that one graduating class, and that would seem to emphasize rank to me, and yet I know we've been kind of moving away from rank. We've been talking about it on and off for 10 years, maybe more. But it's just that, I don't know, I thought I heard 2 different things there.
So not my intention. So by creating the slight shift in how it's weighted, we bring the GPA closer into alignment, but more importantly, we're now rewarding the successes of our CP students in closing that gap. So instead of having a 1.5 difference in weighting, it comes back down to the traditional 1 difference that you would have in all the local high schools. So then that students who are in CP can, attain the same level of rewards and honors as another student who may have an AP but getting a D. So it closes that gap between our student population.
So do other schools have the same, are other schools doing the same thing, or no? Do they have a different GPA system?
we are now aligned with the other schools.
Okay.
We were different.
Than they were.
Yes, and so we did a lot of research, and I have the 9 schools that we studied most actively, as well as other schools,
Okay.
to help put us in alignment with that.
So we were higher than they were.
For how we were weighting our AP classes, correct.
Okay.
Well, and then it ripples into honors, how we do honors as well. I mean, so it's not just an AP change, so an A plus or in honors in the past was a 5.0, and now an A plus is a 4.5, and an A is a 4.3.
Yes.
I mean, so it's, you know, it ripples, it starts in that upper left corner, but it ripples everywhere. I mean, I know it's kind of a big deal. I know that nothing like this can happen without an enormous amount of effort and work, but, I mean, I actually, you know, a little bit, I felt like I saw this for the first time, and knew this was happening for the first time when I'm reading the handbook at the end of the year saying, well, you okay the handbook? And I was like, well, wait a minute, what about this? Who okayed this, you know? And it just, I was a little taken aback that something that seems to me a little bit significant, because it's taken us a dozen years to get there, wasn't something that we had a presentation on, or got kicked around a little bit. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but it was a bit of a surprise.
So not my intention, I apologize for that.
I get it.
I do think it was important that the work that occurred last year, although needed to be put on hold for all the right reasons, was then brought up to finalize the steps of coming in front of school committee. And so here we are.
Here we are. At some point, could we see that work, maybe?
Yes. So I
don't want to know, believe it or
can't do
not, it's
really well with the
9:30,
showing.
9:40.
Great PowerPoint presentation on it, but yes, it is 9:42.
Kitchens are closing.
But I do have that, Paul, because before we took any forward
Yeah,
steps.
it'd be good to just know what the 9 schools were, what they did. I mean, you know, I
Can you
think
forward
at
that
least.
to us? Yeah, I can share it
At
out.
least a couple of us would like
I
to see
know.
it, I think.
Okay.
I haven't seen that PowerPoint, so if you could send it to me, and then we could send it out to committee.
Okay.
You're good.
Otherwise, I thought all the other changes made sense to me. The questions that I had, you know, Michelle or somebody else answered, and I was fine with it.
Okay.
So you can send it.
All right. Do you have any other questions or discussion?
There's no truant officers anymore. Is that a job that's just kind of gone away? Am I dating myself when I even use the word?
Having a car drive to your house, knock on the door.
You just replaced all a while ago on that one.
Yeah, I'm sure that's probably very true. Well, I would move that we accept the changes to the student handbook as presented.
Okay, moved by Paul Butka. Do you have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Paul Desmond. And any discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous.
Nice job.
All right, next is bring your own device update.
I'd like to pass over this.
Okay.
We still are working on finalizing the language. There's some drafts of the language in front of you, but we'd like to share this more out within the school community before we take it up for final
Mhm.
consideration, because there might be some editing there. But I think what's great is that clearly this is moving forward, and this will become a reality in the next school year at some point. So what we'd like to do is just bring this back in September for a revisit.
I ask a question. It's actually my daughter's question. She wants to know what you're gonna do with all the Chromebooks that you currently have if you allow kids to bring their own to school. She doesn't want them to get wasted. She's just, she wants to know what.
So that's probably why we're passing over it, just to make sure that we have full, that we've got all these kinds of questions.
We had this conversation in the car the other day.
You can assure her we have a plan for those Chromebooks.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
So this isn't gonna start in September?
It could be launching in September, once we finalize the discussions that need to take place on campus. So it could launch in the 3rd week or the 4th week of September, and still makes up a September launch.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so the food service analysis,
So we were looking for a magic balance, and I have some good news that at last review, which was this afternoon, I think the revolving account is right now favorable at the high school level. I just want to commend the work of Diane Kofer. We had some folks in from PFS, the Department of Education, professional development that we were doing around the strategic planning. You might remember we made reference to a grant that we had received. And so we love to play host, and we were actually hosting this event, and we had a number of superintendents from all over Massachusetts here. And we also like to treat them to lunch. And so we traveled up to the cafeteria. They were so impressed with the lunch. And one of the things that we found out through conversations as we've been looking at this financial analysis is how much the staff here loves to scratch cook, and that allows them to disperse the mandated nutritional requirements across the week in many and varied ways. I had no idea they made their own salad dressings because they can put less sodium in, and then I think they should just go into business as Otis Spunkmeyer did with their chocolate chip cookies, because they were amazing. And just the variety of lunch menu offerings, and the superintendents couldn't believe that was school cafeteria. So, good feedback. I just want to also say on the same venue, they were greeted at the door and could not say enough about our students. They were helpful. They wanted to make sure we had our visitor badges on. They were, having wonderful conversations with the superintendents as they walked them to their point of destination. And just, one of them just looked at me and she said, I just want to tell you, these kids here are incredible. And to hear that from another superintendent is something really we all should be proud of. It's particularly the high school administrative team over there for just doing a great job with the school climate and the school culture this year. So with all that said, 35 cents will probably put us reasonably in the positive if we're assuming that there's no revolving balance carrying forward and these projections are accurate. In my cover letter summary, I did suggest that what I would like to do is bring this back in January. Let's revisit where we are with the numbers, and then again in June. If we are tracking to the positive, that's great. And if not, we can revisit this conversation as an ongoing dialogue. I also removed the increase on the cafe corner items because it's tough to do 5% on, 25 cents.
Yeah.
So I don't think anyone's gonna hand us 27 cents. I'm not even sure they even have pennies in their wallets anymore. So just making it as simple and keeping it, 35 cents and 35 cents seems to make sense. No pun intended. And just keeping it on the full meal and the optional meals.
All right, so we need any discussion on the?
It's been 7 years since we changed prices in the cafeteria.
Yes,
I think
7
that's
years.
probably worth noting
The motion.
before I make this odious motion to raise the price of meals in the cafeteria by
Well, we could say
35
that
cents.
again, like you said,
7 years, yeah.
Yes.
So,
Before you make, I just want to also add, because this committee had the most conversation, I think, about what takes place during the lunch. We talked about lunch lines, we talked about, how those items are served, and looking at more environmentally conscious ways to do that. So we had all of the 10 managers together, and it was 2.5 hours of just fantastic suggestions by the managers who manage our kitchens. From we want to do more scratch cooking to some of the suggestions they had about lines, to adding another register, to just things that we probably wouldn't have thought about because we don't do their work every day. So that's the excitement that's going to take place through the good work of the Health and Wellness Committee next year. And I also just found out from Lori Pardee that the Health and Wellness Committee exists because we have a cafeteria. It doesn't have anything to do with health and wellness. It's a mandate when you have a food service program. So it was a natural connection to have it take on this responsibility, because that's why it exists. So that will sort of be a focus area for us next year.
so, we have a motion?
So I move that for the first time in 7 years, we increase the price of meals in our cafeteria by the recommended 35 cents.
Second.
Moved by Paul Butka, seconded by Joan Frank. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor?
Thank you.
Okay, unanimous. Okay, policy development and/or distribution, well, it looks like we have all second readings. Vote to approve the E210, school-based public access defibrillation program, J120, school immunization requirements, J220, dispensing medication, and J340, head injury and concussions policy. Bob?
So I move that we vote to approve the second readings of all those policies that you just mentioned.
Okay.
Second.
Moved by Paul Butka, second by Paul Desmond. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? All right.
Thank
That's
you.
unanimous.
Great.
The next item is audience sharing.
Has anyone left?
Yes.
We have an audience member.
Okay.
A very patient man.
Yes, he is. Had the whole experience of school committee meetings. One seating, combined and regional.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
It's for the
Yeah,
TV.
that's
Yeah, it's
just
just
for the
for the
TV, that's,
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. So I'm actually embarrassed to be here tonight because I was hoping that I could get some sort of a response. But all I'm really looking for is a response. That's not a public record response. You know, I did 3 campaigns over in Iraq. I did 7 years away from my family. That if I see something, what I consider as terrible happening, I would like at least we'll look into it or we don't see it as an issue. And that's not what I've been able to get so far. So let me just kind of recap the last 15 days. On June 5th, I had a meeting at Algonquin with an administrator, actually 2 administrators. One had to leave early, a student and my wife. And at that time, it was what seemed to be a normal discussion, but what came out of it was that determination, or it kind of slipped out, that students were being searched due to things such as tardiness, right? So that sounded a little off to me. And then as we talked about it a little bit more and we discussed it a little bit more, we found the search process to be how that works for tardiness. Again, this is probably the best example that I have. So you take off your shoes, you lift up your pants from the bottom, and you lift them up, and then you lift up your shirt, and then you drop down your pants so you can expose the top part of your underwear, and you spin around, and sometimes this is with one administrator, sometimes this is with 2. So that caught me a little odd. So the next day I put in a public records request, and thank you for those responses. I sent an email, and it's basically saying these are my concerns, and I would have been real pleased with we'll look into it, or we don't see this as an issue. And that's really all I'm looking for, and I'm hoping I can get something similar to that tonight. On June 11th, we met with the administration again, or the administrator again, and what came out was, yes, the search, if he doesn't want to be searched, he shouldn't be late to class. Okay, and so the question that I had to try to clarify that was, so you use body searches on students as a way to incent students to be on time for class, and the response was, no. I use the threat of body searches as a way to incent students to be on time for class. So that caught me a little bit off guard too. I was expecting something that would seem a little more reasonable. That's not what I got. June 15th, I was able to pick up the public record request. No response yet on the concerns, although again, I did get the records and I do appreciate that. I won't bring that up just here. But June 18th, I inquired if administrators were trained in the justification of searches and presented with information related to the rulings on the subject as it relates to the Fourth Amendment protections, and then the 14th. Article 14 of the Massachusetts Declaration of Rights, specifically to include Commonwealth versus Damien D. 434 Mass. 725 2001. I would Google that. I think that gives a lot of clarification on this specifically. So right now, again, I would just like this discussed. I would like it talked about. I would like it pursued. I would like some clarification on what the policy is, so we understand that there is a reasonable expectation of privacy, and yes, we understand that there is some leeway to the schools, New Jersey versus TLO. I understand that, but again, that's further clarified as you go down and you look at these rulings later on. So if I could get some sort of a response, I would greatly appreciate it. I'll leave it there for now. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for coming to communicate with us your concern. And we, as part of audience sharing, the committee cannot, discuss anything because that's brought up because of the fact it wasn't on the agenda as a specific agenda item. But we heard your concerns. Okay? And thank you. All right. And next is the distribution of the personnel report.
It's in your package.
Yeah.
I would say the hiring's going quite well this summer for next year, so that's just for review.
All right. And, the distribution of the school committee meeting dates in your packet for next year, put it on your calendars.
I would like to add, I believe that Southborough will be changing town meeting to Saturday. Last I think they suggested it might be, so it hasn't been finalized, but that might have some impact on our calendar, I don't know, but I guess we'll know better once the date is finalized. I think it's on March 23rd, or something like that, but it might have some impact on this, so I'm not sure what, but it might.
Right.
Just wanted to put that out there for placeholder.
Check.
Okay.
I just had a question, since you brought it up. When I heard that from Kathleen, my first inclination was, does that mean that we're gonna have, you and the administration is gonna have to work on the budget sooner and to get the votes in? Does that affect any of our regional meeting dates?
I'm not sure, but we tend to vote the regional budget the last week in February.
Okay.
In which case, so the only thing that could really impact that is if there's some significant variable that is coming through the state, like there's not, the numbers aren't available, or there's a delay or something like that, which would then delay us and would not give us the ability to vote a budget. There was some discussions on the town side that, well, we can just make an amendment on the town floor if that's the case. Not necessarily ideal, but, we can live with that if we need to have that happen. So the way we've been voting over the last couple of years, 3 or more, I think we'll be okay, as long as the state cooperates. And the state hasn't voted their budget yet, so we're still waiting for that to happen.
Okay, so, right. And next is just the distribution of the Harbinger and the Harbinger in the class of 2018, which I always look forward to. And approval of bills and payrolls.
There's a stack. Wind down this fiscal year.
And then for the agenda items next month, which is really not next month, but it's in September. So we'll have the school improvement plan. Anything else, Paul?
Yeah, I would like to add to the agenda of that upcoming meeting, some discussion about what we do when kids are late for class.
Okay.
And searches and things. I'm finding nothing in the handbook that talks about that sort of action, but maybe I'm just overlooking it, but I wouldn't mind adding that to the agenda, just
Yep.
so we could discuss it.
Yep. That's a great idea.
All right, the BYOD policy.
BYOD, yep. Anything else? Okay, so, we have a motion to,
I move that we adjourn this last meeting of the 2017-2018 school year for the North or South Regional School Committee.
Second it.
motion by Paul Butcher, seconded by Kathleen. All those in favor? And we are adjourned.